Warrior Lore. Chapter 1126. Xiaofu, is little Xingxing really your daughter? Are you married? Married? Xiaofu, hurry up and tell us what's going on. Where did this child come from? Where is her mother? Our Du family cannot let this girl down. Married? This morning, the Du family was in an uproar. Following the appearance of little Xingxing affectionately called Du Xiaofu Dad every time he opened his mouth. This made the Du family's aunts and elders who didn't know the situation extremely surprised and pleasantly surprised. Du Xiaofu could not even explain. Even Medicine King Yi Wuming came to ask and could only smile bitterly. Little Xingxing, on the other hand, was doted on by the elders the moment she arrived at the Du family. In the end, everyone in the Du family found out the truth, but they still doted on little Xingxing. Xiaofu, you're not young anymore. When your father was your age, he and your mother had already given birth to you, right? It's time for you to get married? Marry? That girl from the Yi family is not bad. I heard that her cultivation is also not bad now. Why don't you let me go to the Yi family to talk about the marriage? There shouldn't be any problems. Marry? Xiaofu, that girl from the Yi family seems to be interested in you too. She's also pretty. What do you think? Marry? And then, the Du family aunts all had their eyes on Du Xiaofu. Third brother, after you came back, big sister and I were much more relaxed. Marry? Looking at Du Xiaofu being surrounded by the Du family aunts, Du Yunlong and his big sister Du Xiaoman felt much less pressure these days. Usually, these Du family aunts would torment the two of them quite a bit. Big sister and second brother are not married yet. Of course, I can't take the lead. Marry? Helpless, Du Xiaofu could only use big sister Du Xiaoman and second brother Du Yunlong as shields. This third brother, hearing this from afar, Du Yunlong immediately hid far away. In the next few days, Du Xiaofu stayed in the Du clan and opened up the ancient barren space. He arranged for the Du clan's disciples and the World Society's core disciples to enter the ancient barren space to comprehend. He also let the people he trusted enter the purple thunder profound cauldron to refine their bodies with the divine thunder. Du Xiaofu also knew that Ouyang Shuang had been gone for many years, so he resolutely went out to look for opportunities and train himself. However, Ouyang Shuang wasn't with Yi Piaoling and the general. There was no news of her return either. This made Du Xiaofu a little worried. During this period of time, Du Xiaofu offered some guidance to the group on their cultivation. He also paid a visit to Old Master Xie Tianhong and even visited the new Tianwu Academy. However, Tianwu Academy had yet to recover fully in the span of a few years. Before Tianwu Academy, Du Xiaofu stood quietly before the vice principal's tombstone. He pondered for a moment before leaving. I have to go to the 7-star hall. Shichang still needs your protection, Brother Qingchun. Yes. A few days later, at the back mountain of the Du clan, Du Xiaofu said to his elder brother, Zhang Qingchun, go. Be careful on the road. All the major powers are extremely peaceful now, but there are undercurrents surging beneath this calm. It is extremely abnormal. A great calamity might really be coming. You should find some time to cultivate as well. Yes. Zhang Qingchun instructed Du Xiaofu. After which, he said, the world above the 9 stars is still vast. After a period of time, I will have to take a look around and hope to improve myself. Yes. What is the realm above the 9 stars? Yes. Du Xiaofu asked. There was no end to experts. There was probably a realm above the 9 stars. However, there were very few experts in the world who could step into the 9 stars and martial domain realm, not to mention the realms above it. Thus, there weren't many people who knew about those realms. It's useless to tell you about the realms above the 9 stars now. You won't be able to understand them anyway. You are still far from the 9 stars. When you reach that level, you will know. Yes. Zhang Qingchun smiled. He didn't say it to Du Xiaofu. It was useless to say it. Du Xiaofu nodded and didn't ask any more questions. He was only at the depths of the Nirvana revered realm and the 8-star perfection realm. He was still very far from the 9-star martial domain realm. The next morning, Du Xiaofu bid farewell to the Du family. Medicine King Yi Wuming, Murong Yuruwa, and the others followed little Xingxing and little Xingxing to the 7-star hall. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation and strength, he wouldn't encounter any danger on the way to the spirit realm. After a few days, They arrived at the spirit realm. Along the way, Du Xiaofu could feel the abnormal atmosphere of the entire central state. The news of the evil spirits appearing, the rumor of the evil demons escaping, and the impending great calamity had already spread in the central state. The atmosphere in the spirit realm was similar to that in the central state. There was a lot of discussion about the evil spirits in the 8 continents. It was rumored that many places in the 8 continents were occupied by the evil spirits and turned into demon domains. There were countless casualties. This news made Du Xiaofu sigh in his heart. However, with his current strength and cultivation, and a lot of things he had to do, he was powerless to do anything. The 7-star hall had merged into one, and the main hall had always been set up in Sky Pivot Hall. Therefore, Du Xiaofu went directly to Sky Pivot Hall. After entering the territory of Sky Pivot Hall, Du Xiaofu could feel that there were Sky Pivot Hall experts guarding some of the large cities and important places. Their auras were not weak. As the 7 old hall masters of the 7-star hall appeared, the artifact Venerable broke through to the 9-star spirit talisman master, and the 9 lives Venerable, GMO, broke through to the martial domain realm. The status of the 7-star hall in the spirit realm grew higher and higher. Almost all the forces in the spirit realm had sought refuge under the 7-star hall. However, Du Xiaofu knew that the key to the forces that sought refuge was the strength of the 7-star hall. If an even stronger force appeared in the spirit realm, these forces that sought refuge would also change their minds. It was already good enough that they did not change sides at the last moment. Passing by the large cities and forts in the territory of Sky Pivot Hall, Du Xiaofu did not stay for long and directly rushed to Sky Pivot Hall. Whoosh whoosh, 2 figures, one big and one small, wrapped in flowing light, appeared outside Sky Pivot Hall in a short time. Since the last time the Imperial Pivot Hall was attacked by the Devil Sect, the security had become even tighter. The defense was like an iron bastion. It was obvious that there was a powerful talisman array arrangement. It was definitely not an easy thing to break into the Imperial Pivot Hall. However, Du Xiaofu was the young hall master of Sky Pivot Hall and naturally could not break in. Although he was discovered just as he approached Sky Pivot Hall, he immediately showed his identity and entered the hall. Sky Pivot Hall had changed a lot in these years. After becoming the main hall of the 7-star hall, it had been repaired and expanded. Many buildings had been added, so that the main hall could accommodate more disciples. In the mountains, there were the sounds of disciples practicing martial arts. There were protector elders teaching them, and they were very hardworking. The young hall master has returned. When Du Xiaofu arrived at Sky Pivot Hall and appeared, it immediately caused an uproar. The disciples of the 7-star hall rushed out to welcome him. The disciples who were cultivating hurriedly rushed over. That's our young hall master? He really is so young. But his cultivation and strength are so terrifying. I heard that our young hall master has the name of the Demon King. He has even killed the descendants of the true dragon in Tianhuang mainland. Many disciples of Sky Pivot Hall who had not seen their young hall master before, and some disciples who had just joined Sky Pivot Hall, immediately whispered excitedly, "Young hall master, you're finally back." Not long after, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Wu Mashang, Yu Bai and the others immediately rushed over to welcome him. All of them were extremely happy. They were all in Sky Pivot Hall now. The young hall master is really back. Some elders and protectors appeared, looking pleasantly surprised and extremely polite to Du Xiaofu. Although these elders and protectors were much older, in the path of cultivation, the one who reached the top was the teacher. Now, Du Xiaofu's cultivation and strength, as well as his reputation on Kyushu, in the entire 7-star hall, ordinary elders could not compare to him. Moreover, he was the young hall master of the 7-star hall, so these elders did not dare to be disrespectful. Du Xiaofu nodded to the elders and glanced around. It was not difficult to see that Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and the others had already broken through to the supremacy level. Many elders had also improved a lot. The overall strength of the 7-star hall had definitely improved a lot. Greetings, Master. Greetings, Uncle Master. After a while, Du Xiaofu bowed in the side hall of the main hall of Sky Pivot Hall and saw his master, Weapon Supremacy Xiahou Fenglei. and his fifth uncle master, Gmo-chan. Chapter 11:27. Within the Great Hall, Mad Honorable, Honorable Qian Xing, and Honorable Pill were seated, but Fairy Jade and Purple Heavenly Sovereign were nowhere to be seen. Good lad. You can even kill the descendant of a true dragon. Honorable Pill, Honorable Qian Xing, and Mad Honorable looked at Du Xiaofu and laughed. They had long heard of Du Xiaofu's feats in Tianhuang mainland and were currently teasing him. However, the trio could not hide the shock in their eyes as they curiously observed Du Xiaofu's aura, wondering what level this lad's cultivation had reached. Lad, you are finally willing to return? Did something happen within the Divine Thunder Manor? Gmo's official asked Du Xiaofu. This disciple did obtain some benefits. Du Xiaofu lightly smiled and explained the benefits of obtaining the 9 Revolutions Divine Lei Lian, Jinlei Tensei's lifelong cultivation of mental state, to the officials of GMO, Honorable Mad Honorable, and Honorable Pill. He also mentioned the Silver Net Soul devouring lightning. Such a fortuitous encounter is simply heaven-defying. Jinlei Tensei's lifelong cultivation of mental state is similar to the reincarnation secret technique of the Great Wheel sect. Lad, you also obtained a type of spirit thunder. Honorable Mad Honorable, Honorable Pill, Honorable Qian Xing, and Honorable GMO were all stunned when they heard his words. Unfortunately, the lifelong cultivation of mental state left behind by Senior Jinlei Tensei is incomplete. Du Xiaofu said, "Don't complain that it is not enough. Such a fortuitous encounter was obtained by you. It is already a blessing from the heavens. What is your current cultivation level?" Weapon Honorable Xiahou Feng lay glared at Du Xiaofu, but his gaze was filled with joy for his disciple. Martial revered Nirvana Realm, 8-star perfect talisman master. Du Xiaofu said. Although he had been doing closed-door training in the ancient palace of the Divine Thunder Mansion for more than 2 years, he had also gained a lot of benefits, including the 9 Revolutions Divine Lei Lian. However, they were all benefits in terms of comprehension and state of mind. His primordial spirit had also strengthened a lot, but the substantive benefits in terms of martial arts had not increased by much. However, Du Xiaofu knew very well that the benefits of comprehension and mental state were much more important than a substantial breakthrough. This kid's talent is too terrifying. The venerated Pill smiled bitterly. The spirit talisman master's robes trembled slightly. He had been disheartened for a while now. He had cultivated for over 1,000 years and was still at the peak of the 8-star Nirvana realm. He had yet to step into the 9-star realm. However, this little guy had only cultivated for a short period of time, and he was already at the great circle of 8 stars. One had to know that when he was Du Xiaofu's age, he, the alchemy venerate, had only just reached the great circle of 8 stars. It took him more than 100 years to reach the great circle of 8 stars. Recently, there have been quite a number of people of the younger generation in Kyushu. Their talents are extremely heaven-defying. The GMO official also sighed. During their trip to the Tianhuang mainland, they had seen too many extraordinary people of the younger generation. They were even stronger than they were in the past. There must be a demon behind this abnormality. The evil spirit has appeared, and the evil demon has broken free. Perhaps a calamity is really coming. The weapon venerate Xiahou Feng Lei's expression turned serious. Flames and lightning flickered in his eyes. He then looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Xiaofu, cultivate well. If a calamity is really coming, only strength can protect yourself. The dragons, Heaven Saber sect, Ancient Fist sect, and legalism will not let you off easily." Okay, Du Xiaofu nodded. His clear eyes flashed with a golden light. After that, Du Xiaofu heard from his master and martial uncle that his second martial uncle and sixth martial uncle had returned to their respective halls to cultivate in seclusion. They should be showing signs of a breakthrough. In the next few days, Du Xiaofu entered the desolate ancient space to repair the damaged cloud beast. He had used up a lot of materials before he finally managed to repair the cloud beast. Dongli Diao, Linwei Qi, Wu Mashang, Tao Yu, and the other extraordinary people of the younger generation of the 7-star hall were placed by Du Xiaofu into the desolate ancient space's enlightenment realm and battle realm to comprehend and train. As for Du Xiaofu himself, He originally wanted to enter the battle realm to test his current strength. Only then did he realize that his current strength was already enough to traverse the entire battle realm. I wonder where the other half of the desolate ancient space is? Du Xiaofu muttered to himself at the entrance of the first layer of the desolate ancient space. From the soul of the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu knew that the ancient space that he held was only a small part of the entire desolate ancient space. There were very few resources in it. If he could integrate and control the complete desolate ancient space one day, he would be able to comprehend and become one of the most powerful people in the world. Desolate ancient space. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. Faint golden light flickered in his eyes. After the soul of the space allowed him to integrate with the soul seed, he had to find another desolate ancient space. Only by finding another desolate ancient space could he unleash the true power of the desolate ancient space. However, the whereabouts of the other half of the desolate ancient space were unknown. Du Xiaofu could not find it, and he could not expose the desolate ancient space. The soul of the space had warned him that if anyone knew that the desolate ancient space was with him, all the hidden experts in the mainland would definitely attack him without mercy. There would be no place for him to escape from them. I'll look for it in the future. Du Xiaofu made up his mind. If he could find the other half of the desolate ancient space and integrate with it, he would be able to become one of the most powerful people in the world. However, he did not know whether this was true or not. The desolate ancient space was the possession of the Tianwu Academy's principal. The desolate ancient space was closely related to Tianwu Academy. The soul of the space had also said that there was a calamity in the world back then. Countless experts fell, and a large number of ancient life forms were killed. As a result, the desolate ancient space was split into two. The Tianwu Academy's principal was still alive in the world, but he was unable to escape from the calamity. What a headache! Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. The devil religion, legalism, and now there was the addition of dragons. Furthermore, he had many troubles to deal with. This gave Du Xiaofu a headache. Taking in a deep breath, Du Xiaofu decided to leave the desolate ancient space. Young Hall Master. Right at this moment, the door to the enlightenment realm opened. A sweet and clear voice sounded and a lady in a fiery red dress walked out. Her long hair swayed slightly, adding a hint of charm to her. Her alluring face radiated a noble and heroic aura. She was as beautiful as the spring plum blossoms and as divine as the autumn snow. Her aura made one unable to look at her directly. She was Lin Weiqi from the Alpha Hall. How's your comprehension? You seem to have improved quite a bit. Du Xiaofu turned around and smiled at the lady in front of him. It wasn't hard to feel that Lin Weiqi had benefited greatly from the enlightenment realm. She had already refined her body with the divine lightning and was definitely a leading figure in the younger generation. She had also received the personal guidance of Kuang Zun. At this moment, Lin Weiqi had become even stronger. I've improved quite a bit. However, compared to young Hall Master, it's still far from enough. Lin Weiqi looked at Du Xiaofu with a smile. Her bright eyes flickered as if she wanted to say something, but stopped. He is the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Only the young miss of the Ancient Heaven Sect, Sima Muhan, Zhu Shui of the Black Charm Sect, Hua Ziamo of the Hundred Flowers Sect, and Yu Zheng Tongxian of the Heavenly Sound Sect are worthy of him. Lin Weiqi pondered. Her eyes flickered as she held her breath and looked at the purple-robed young man in front of her. The purple-robed young man in front of her was not someone she could catch up to. She could only sigh softly in her heart. What's wrong with you? Sensing the subtle change in Lin Weiqi, Du Xiaofu asked in puzzlement. It's nothing. Lin Weiqi smiled. She waved her sleeves and stopped thinking. She pretended that nothing had happened. Her charming face was just smiling. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, the doors to the enlightenment realm and the war realm opened again. Many figures flew out one after another. They were Dongli Diao, Wu Mashang, Tao Yu, and the others. Young Hall Master. Everyone saluted. They had received many benefits, and their faces were full of smiles. Lin Weiqi retreated to the side and quietly looked at the purple-robed young man's back. She smiled faintly but did not say anything. Rumble. Just at this moment, the entire ancient, desolate space trembled violently. Everyone's bodies trembled and their expressions changed greatly. Not good. Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly surged with golden light. With a thought, he immediately led everyone out of the ancient desolate space. In the divine pivot hall, the vast space was covered by a talisman array. The dazzling talisman runes were dazzling, and the space was frozen and distorted. Rumble, thunder, and lightning could be faintly seen outside the talisman array, accompanied by rolling dark clouds. All disciples of the Seven-Star Hall, listen up. A strong enemy is coming. All young disciples should leave first and leave behind the inheritance for the Seven-Star Hall. In the air, weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei stepped on the air. Flames and lightning surged in his eyes. He could feel the terrifying aura outside the talisman array. Today would be the Seven-Star Hall's calamity. Fourth brother, what should we do? Revered Mad, revered Pill, and revered Qian Xing looked outside the talisman array. Their expressions were extremely solemn. According to the plan, leave behind the inheritance for the Seven-Star Hall. Second brother and sixth brother are not in seclusion in the divine pivot hall. We are afraid that this day will come. Xiahou Fenglei sighed. His voice was bleak and sharp. Whoosh whoosh. In the divine pivot hall, the crowd was a little flustered. Du Xiaofu, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others flew into the sky and arrived. You came at the right time. A secret space passage has been secretly opened in the divine pivot hall. You should leave first. Xiahou Fenglei immediately said when he saw Du Xiaofu, Dongli Diao, and the others. Master, what's going on? Du Xiaofu looked outside the talisman array. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and dark clouds rolled. The aura was extremely terrifying. He vaguely felt a familiar aura. Chapter 11:28. The people from the Devil Sect are here again. This time, they came prepared. They won't let this go. Xiahou Fenglei looked at Du Xiaofu, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, Wu Mashang, and the others and said, You guys are the most talented in the Seven-Star Hall. The Seven-Star Hall will depend on you guys from now on. As long as you guys are here, the Seven-Star Hall will not be destroyed. Honorable Equipment Master, we will not leave. We will stay with the Seven-Star Hall. Lin Weiqi, Wu Mashang, Dongli Diao, and the others were grieving. They could also see that the devil religion did not come with good intentions, but they did not want to leave. They wanted to stay with the Seven-Star Hall. Rumble. Outside the array, the earth shook, and the sky trembled. The devil religion was already attacking the array. All of you, leave. With your current strength, you will die if you stay. You have to leave. Xiaofu, take them to the secret space passage behind the mountain. The big picture is more important. Hurry. 9 Lives Supremacy GMO shouted at Du Xiaofu. His eyes were sharp. Then, his figure flew out. Runes soared into the sky, and his aura shot to the sky. Waves of Xian Qi surged and covered the sky. He shouted to the sky, Devil religion bastards, if you want to touch the Seven-Star Hall, you will have to pay with your blood. Kiki, after today, there will no longer be a Seven-Star Hall in this world. Outside the array, dark clouds rolled, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. A terrifying aura surged as if a demon god had descended. The aura was too terrifying. Go, let's go. Du Xiaofu looked at the sky, then looked at Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, Wu Mashang, Tao Yu, and the others. He gritted his teeth and flew away. At the back mountain of Dubhe Hall, near where Du Xiaofu had obtained the benefits of the stars, there were already elders waiting for him. They opened up a secret space passage and rippled through space. All of you, leave quickly. This is a secret space tunnel that the 4th and 5th Palace Masters secretly opened. The exit is a safe place that we secretly set up over the years in order to prepare for a great crisis one day. Elder Zhu Xiu said to Du Xiaofu and Lin Weiqi with a serious expression, Young Hall Master, do we really want to leave? We want to live and die with the Seven-Star Hall so that we can die without regrets. Dongli Diao, Wu Mashang, Tao Yu, Sun Wu, and the others all spoke up, unwilling to leave. Hurry up and go in. The bigger picture is more important. Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and shouted. He looked at the talisman formation in the sky that was shaking and had already begun to crack. Golden light shot out from his eyes, sharp and intimidating. Dongli Diao, Wu Ma Shang, Tao Yu, Lin Weiqi, and the others could only grit their teeth and enter the secret space tunnel. One by one, the top disciples of the younger generation disappeared into the secret space tunnel. It's about time. Young Hall Master, you should go in too. This secret space tunnel can't allow too many people to enter. Elder Chui Fu said to Du Xiaofu. Where's Little Star? Where did he go? There's not enough time. Looking at the shaking talisman formation in the sky, Du Xiaofu's eyes rippled with golden light. Then, a bolt of lightning surged in his palm. He waved his hand and directly landed on the secret space tunnel. Rumble. A terrifying aura exploded. Lightning surged, and the surrounding space suddenly shook. Ka-ka! The mountain collapsed and the ground cracked. Elder Zhu Shou, Elder Chui Fu, and the other elders immediately flew away. The entrance to the secret space tunnel was sealed. Du Xiaofu's figure floated in the air, his purple robe fluttering. Lightning rippled around his body. Young Hall Master, why don't you leave? You're the future of the 7-star hall. Elder Zhu Xiu rushed to Du Xiaofu and shouted. His old face and eyes were moist. He knew what Du Xiaofu wanted to do. Elder Zhu Xiu, I'm not leaving. I'm the young hall master of the 7-star hall. I'm the disciple of my master, revered equipment. How can I leave? Today, I'm with the 7-star hall. Du Xiaofu said. He had long regarded the 7-star hall as his home. Revered equipment was still there. How could he leave? That would be disloyal and unrighteous. Young hall master. Elder Zhu Xiu didn't know what to say. Hot tears gushed out from his old face. Rumble. Not long after, the talisman formation in the Alpha Hall cracked and was about to break. Many experts of the devil religion continued to attack the talisman formation. Disciples, after the talisman formation breaks, think of a way to leave first. Don't fight. Follow the protector elders and find a way out. In the air above the Alpha Hall, many protector elders shouted to the disciples. At this moment, there were tens of thousands of disciples in the Alpha Hall. Only Dongli Diao and Lin Weiqi had left. The secret space tunnel couldn't transport many disciples. Xiaofu, why do you stay? You're the hope of the 7-star hall. This time, the devil religion came prepared. I'm afraid it won't be as simple as last time. When Du Xiaofu returned, revered Kuang saw that Du Xiaofu hadn't left. His tone was sharp. Great uncle, I can't leave. Even if we can't defeat them, the 7-star hall will still be there. Du Xiaofu said. His aura surged, and golden light covered his body. You can't leave. You can only fight. Remember, you're the hope of the 7-star hall. A real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Sometimes, it's just a reckless man. Revered Weapon said to Du Xiaofu. His eyes were calm at this moment. Rumble. As the weapon master's voice fell, the talisman array in the sky finally cracked and exploded amidst a series of thunderous explosions. Crack! The monstrous talisman formation shattered, and the resplendent light surged in the sky. The talisman formation exploded, and the sky above the Alpha Hall was densely packed. All of them were dressed strangely. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled behind them, and dark clouds rolled. Their killing intent was monstrous and solidified the void. So many experts. They're prepared. Du Xiaofu's golden eyes narrowed as his heart trembled. He swept his gaze across the crowd and realized that the demonic sect had sent many powerful cultivators this time. They had far more martial honorables than the Dubhe Hall. It was unlikely that they would be able to defend themselves. Kill. Kill one and break even. Kill two and make a profit. As the talisman formation broke, the figures of the devil religion appeared. The elders and protectors in the Alpha Hall rushed into the sky. Their chi surged, and their Taoist and talisman weapons were activated. They immediately began to attack. These elders and protectors wanted to open up a bloody path for the weaker disciples to leave. After today, the 7-star hall will no longer exist. Kill. High in the sky, a fierce old man in a yellow robe crossed the space. His eyes flickered with lightning, and his aura was terrifying. It was his old enemy, the Een Thunder Elder. As the Een Thunder Elder's voice fell, a large number of experts of the devil religion behind him rushed out. Their auras were cold, and some of them rushed down with lightning. Kill. A fierce battle broke out on the spot. Dazzling talismans intertwined, and chi was like a storm. Magical beasts collided, and Taoist and talisman weapons fought. Rumble. The sky exploded, forming a terrible battlefield. Puff. The elders and protectors of the Seven-Star Hall, who rushed out first, were immediately heavily injured, and their bodies were covered in blood. The devil religion had sent too many experts this time, and they came prepared. Their purpose was to destroy the Seven-Star Hall as an example to others. In Thunder, die. 9 Lives Sage GMO rushed towards the Een Thunder Elder. They were already old enemies, and when enemies meet, their eyes would turn red. Your opponent is me. A dignified and indifferent voice suddenly came from the sky. A strange lightning radiance spread out, and a figure wrapped in lightning appeared. A terrifying pressure spread out along with a domineering and destructive aura. Crackle. This person's body was wrapped in lightning, and the lightning around him looked like silver snakes. The lightning enveloped his entire body, and it was so bright that one could not see his face clearly. However, when this person appeared, the energy of heaven and earth fluctuated, and a lightning arc that could topple mountains and overturn seas spread out and enveloped GMO. It's you? GMO narrowed his eyes. This person had invaded the Alpha Hall before, but he did not come with his true body. But now, he could clearly sense that this person had come with his true body. Kill. Weapon Sage Xiahou Feng lay charged towards the Een Thunder Elder, intending to finish him off first. Xiahou Feng lay, you have nowhere to run this time. Someone will deal with you. The Een Thunder Elder was not afraid. He looked at the approaching Xiahou Feng lay with a cold smile, as though he had something to rely on. Leave this Xiahou Feng lay to me, the rest will be left to you. You know the consequences of any mistakes. As the cold words came out, a beautiful woman in her 40s appeared in front of the Een Thunder Elder like a ghost. Boom! With the appearance of this beautiful woman, this piece of heaven and earth truly solidified. The energy of heaven and earth seemed to have become still. Such power. She seems to be even stronger than Master. Du Xiaofu noticed the beautiful woman. Her body was also fluctuating with lightning, and her eyes contained a strange kind of lightning. Devil chi lingered around her, and her aura seemed to be even stronger than the aura of his master, the revered weapon. Bang, bang, bang. Weapon Venerable Xiahou Fenglei and the beautiful woman immediately began to fight. Their fight sealed the space, and only the electric arcs that filled the sky could be seen spreading across the firmament. It was enough to make people's hearts jump and their primordial spirits almost explode from the pressure. Kill. Charge out from the front. In the space below, the elders and protectors of the Seven-Star Hall were opening a path. They were all covered in blood as they activated their pulse soul, talisman weapons, and Dao weapons. They were leading the weaker disciples of the Seven-Star Hall to break out of the encirclement. There were also several elders, and their auras were even stronger than Elder Cui Fu and Elder Zhushtou. All of them had reached the level of monarch. They were the grand elders of the Alpha Hall, the absolute experts overseeing the Alpha Hall. At this moment, they were also leading the disciples to break out of the encirclement. Chapter 11:29. Leave no one alive, kill them all. An old man descended, his entire body wrapped in dazzling divine light. His voice was majestic, and his eyes were dazzling as if he could look down on the world. This old man began a massacre, stopping the elders of the Seven-Star Hall from breaking out with their disciples. He was Shengguang, Heavenly Lord of the Divine Light Court, who had not appeared in the outside world for a long time. Behind Shengguang, Heavenly Lord, several figures stepped into the air, covering the sky and earth. They were all experts of the Divine Light Court, and their auras distorted the space, emitting a gloomy chill. Shengguang, old bastard, you're here too? Huang Zun shouted, his eyes suddenly cold as his figure violently rushed out. Dongjian, your Seven-Star Hall will be destroyed today. Shengguang, Heavenly Lord, stood in the air, his voice majestic, his eyes shining with dazzling light as he directly rushed towards Huang Zun. As Shengguang, Heavenly Lord, made his move, Many experts of the Divine Light Court behind him immediately rushed out, waving their hands as energy surged, attacking the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall. Rumble. Terrifying energy swept out, and the power of space swept out, causing the ground and mountains to shake. Large numbers of disciples of the Seven-Star Hall screamed and wailed, unable to protect themselves, and blood flowed like a river. Bastard! Kill them! Venerable Qian Xing had also rushed out. His target was the Thunder Elder. As soon as Alchemy Master made his move, he was besieged by several experts of the devil religion, whose cultivation was absolutely terrifying. It was as if they had long been prepared to lock onto Alchemy Master and would not let him go. Kill! Du Xiaofu was furious, and his killing intent shot out. The golden wings on his back spread out, and he flapped them out. Purple gold light shot out from his hand, and the purple gold heavenly tower appeared in his hand. He slashed at many experts of the devil religion. Rumble. Du Xiaofu's sword swept out, filled with anger and killing intent, causing the mountains and rivers below to collapse, and the ravines to explode like an abyss. Du Xiaofu's sword killed many people of the devil religion, and even the souls of several martial venerables were destroyed. Divine Light Court. Kill. Du Xiaofu's hair danced wildly behind him. His killing intent soared to the sky, and golden light rippled all over his body. Then, he charged toward the people of the Divine Light Court. Du Xiaofu swung his sword down, and a martial venerable of the Divine Light Court turned into a bloody mist under his sword. It's Du Xiaofu. Several revered martial artists of the Divine Light Court recognized Du Xiaofu and could not help but tremble. Yuan Jian. Du Xiaofu summoned Yuan Mu, and as soon as this killing machine appeared, it immediately pounced on the experts of the Divine Light Court. It seems to be Yun Guang. He was refined into a puppet. There was an old man from the Divine Light Court who had a close relationship with Yun Guang Venerable. He recognized Yun Guang Venerable in confusion, and his eyes trembled as he roared in anger. Du Xiaofu, you brat, I'm not done with you. The old man was enraged. He was also a transcendent martial honorable, and his killing intent was locked onto Du Xiaofu. Kill. Du Xiaofu did not say anything. His eyes were murderous as he flapped his wings and golden light burst forth. He was like a peerless, ferocious bird as he swooped down. Accompanied by overflowing lightning, he pounced on the transcendent, martial, honorable old man. I'll destroy you today, you little bastard. The transcendent martial honorable was furious. His entire body was covered in light, and his terrifying aura swept out like a storm, shocking everyone. He attacked Du Xiaofu to suppress him. Boom! Du Xiaofu was not afraid. The golden wings of the great rock, the purple gold heavenly palace, the stars profound, the grass of immortality, the dark seeker grass, and other profound mysteries were continuously used. He was evenly matched with the transcendent martial honorable. 2 years ago, Du Xiaofu was able to kill Dragon 9 just by relying on his original body. At this moment, 2 years later, although Du Xiaofu did not have a substantial breakthrough in martial arts, the invisible increase in strength could not be compared to the past. If not for the fact that the transcendent martial honorable of the Divine Light Court was also extraordinary, it would be difficult for him to resist Du Xiaofu's transcendent martial honorable. Not good. This brat is actually so tyrannical. He deserves his reputation. After the transcendent martial honorable of the Divine Light Court and Du Xiaofu exchanged more than 10 moves, he was shocked by Du Xiaofu's endless great divine abilities. He never thought that Du Xiaofu would actually be so tyrannical. It seemed that he was even more terrifying than the rumors said. If this brat is not eliminated, he will be the greatest threat to the Divine Light Court. The old man was shocked. He formed a hand seal and summoned an ancient bowl. Mysterious talisman patterns were carved on it, and bright runes surged and spread out. The ancient aura rippled out. The ancient bowl's power was extremely terrifying. The transcendent martial honorable old man of the Divine Light Court had already used his peak high-grade Dao artifact to deal with Du Xiaofu. Roar! Suddenly, the roars of dragons and tigers, as well as the cries of birds and turtles, rang out from the purple gold heavenly palace. Just as the ancient bowl appeared, a terrifying suction force spread out from the purple-gold heavenly palace. A bright purple-gold sword ray swept out. The purple-gold sword ray seemed to have turned into a purple-gold thunderbolt. It was close at hand and directly wrapped around the ancient bowl. With an unstoppable force, it crushed the ancient bowl into pieces and then swallowed the shattered energy of the ancient bowl. Not good. Chi. The old man suddenly seemed to feel that something was wrong. His gaze changed, but there was nothing he could do. He instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. The old man's peak high-grade Tao artifact was destroyed. He was also severely injured, and his face instantly turned pale. Roar. As the ancient bowl's energy was swallowed, the purple-gold heavenly palace trembled, accompanied by the roars of dragons and tigers. It was very happy. How could this be? The old man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His gaze suddenly changed. He did not expect this to happen. The old man did not expect the other party's weapon to be able to swallow the energy of his Tao artifact. What was even more terrifying was that when the strange weapon swallowed the energy of his Tao artifact, he was completely unable to resist. Naturally, the transcendent martial saint did not know that Du Xiaofu's purple gold heavenly palace's artifact spirit was condensed from the space's soul in the sealed land. It had the talent to swallow the energy of all weapons. Tyrannical fists. At this moment, Du Xiaofu did not delay. Suddenly, lightning surged in his eyes. It was sharp and terrifying. His hand seals changed, and golden light enveloped the surroundings. A tyrannical and sharp aura suddenly swept out, and a fist rushed in front of the old man. Bang! The old man hurriedly attacked, and a shocking energy swept out. He was caught off guard, and his body was forced back dozens of feet. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth again. Bastard! The old man was furious. He was a transcendent martial saint, but he was unable to do anything to Du Xiaofu. At this moment, he was at a disadvantage. Boom! A monstrous chill shot out from the old man's eyes. He had already activated his meridian spirit, and a vast and mighty pressure spread out. In an instant, it was like a spiraling storm. Then, the image of a huge python coiled in the air and pounced at Du Xiaofu. Roar! Suddenly, a dragon's roar resounded in this space. A terrifying mutated dragon's body suddenly swept up into the sky and coiled up. This mutated dragon was unique. It had a pair of phoenix wings that spread out for hundreds of feet. Blazing red and purple flames spread out from it. Starlight flowed on the surface of its body. It also had the aura of a golden-winged rock and a terrifying prime venerate aura that swept through the sky. When this mutated dragon appeared, it was ferocious and mighty. Although it had the appearance of a mutated dragon, the aura on its body was even more powerful than that of a true dragon. The figures fighting in the surroundings all felt their meridian spirits tremble under the terrifying mutated dragon's might. Little Star is here. Great perfection, beast saint. Du Xiaofu raised his head. At this moment, the ferocious and mighty mutated dragon's body was none other than Little Star's body. Roar! When Little Star's body appeared, 5 claws vaguely rose from its abdomen. The runes spreading out were bright and resplendent. A pair of dragon's eyes overflowed with golden light. Its arms flapped, forming a blazing flaming tornado. It immediately wrapped around the extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python. A terrifying, strange, and complicated pressure descended upon the world from Little Star's body. Under this terrifying aura, the extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python's eyes trembled. It was unable to resist at all. Chi-la-la! In a short moment, Little Star's dragon claws danced and destroyed the extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python into pieces. Poochie! The extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python spat out a large mouthful of blood. Under the terrifying mutated dragon's body, he knew best what kind of pressure his meridian spirit python was under. Under the terrifying pressure of the mutated dragon, 10,000 beasts were unable to resist. It was an absolute prime venerate among beasts. He had never seen or even heard of such a mutated dragon. Sumeru illusion, tyrannical sword way. Du Xiaofu's figure pounced forward. Runes fluctuated in his eyes and enveloped the extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python who was spitting out blood. A purple-gold sword radiance swept out. The sword intent was all-pervasive, like a purple-gold thunderbolt, directly striking the extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation in the Tao of Talismans and the power of his primordial spirit, how could the extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python of the Divine Light Court avoid being severely injured? By the time he regained his senses, it was already too late. Ah! After a miserable cry, the extraordinary martial revered meridian spirit python of the Divine Light Court was instantly split into two. His primordial spirit python did not even have time to escape. He was deader than dead. Father, what's going on? I've only comprehended the profound meaning for a while. How did it become like this? Little Star's dragon body coiled in midair, a puzzled look in his golden dragon eyes. Protect yourself and act according to the situation. Du Xiaofu did not say much. His gaze swept across the battlefield. At the moment, the Imperial Pivot Hall was already in a mess. The elders and protectors were leading the disciples to break out of the encirclement in all directions, but they were all blocked by the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court, who had long been prepared. This was the end of the Imperial Pivot Hall. There was a bloody battle everywhere. The disciples and experts of the Seven-Star Hall were constantly dying. It was extremely tragic. High up in the sky, the weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei and the beautiful woman from the Devil Religion, the Nine Lives Venerable Jima and the Lightning Figure, the Crazy Venerable and Shengguang Heavenly Venerable, the Pill Venerable and several top experts were still confronting each other. However, it was obvious that they were at a disadvantage. Xiahou Fenglei, you are indeed somewhat extraordinary. It will take some effort to deal with you. The beautiful woman in the sky spoke. Her aura was even stronger, and a terrifying attack seemed to have turned into a divine ring that enveloped the weapon revered. It was accompanied by a monstrous demonic aura that covered the sky. Chapter 11:30. The weapon-revered cultivator did not say a word. He only fought with all his might. The weapon-revered cultivator Xiahou Fenglei in his body had already activated the 3,000 jolting thunders. Flames and lightning covered the sky and earth, stirring up the energy of heaven and earth. The battle in the sky was the most frightening. It was enough to make those with insufficient cultivation not dare to spy on it. Crazy Venerable could not defeat Shengguang Tianzuan for a long time. He activated his vain spirit and turned it into a huge bird. The bird was like a living creature. It had already reached the late stage of the divine transformation realm. The vain spirit bird was wrapped in mysterious runes. Its eyes were like the sun as it attacked Shengguang Tianzuan. Dongjian, are you going all out? It's a pity that you are only at the peak of the nirvana realm. I am only half a step away from the martial domain. Shengguang Tianzuan's body was filled with holy light. He activated his vain spirit. It was a terrifying beast with 3 heads and 2 tails. It looked like a wolf and a tiger. Chila, the beast's vain spirit roared and the sky trembled. It crushed Crazy Venerable's vain spirit with a claw. The light covered the sky and earth, drowning a large area. The runes lingered as if they were going to tear the mountains and rivers apart. Venerable Qian Xing used all his strength to fight against the Yin Thunder Elder. The star ultimacy fluctuated as if it was drawing the stars from the 9 heavens to fall and resist the Yin Thunder Elder. However, the Yin Thunder Elder's cultivation had also reached the half-domain level. Venerable Qian Xing was still suppressed. Although the half-domain level had not reached the real martial domain level, it had the word domain. Its realm had already surpassed that of a venerable. The gap between realms was difficult to bridge. Venerable Qian Xing had persisted for a long time and had already proved his extraordinariness. Facing the siege of many experts from the Devil Religion, Venerable Alchemy activated his spiritual stove and talisman cauldron. Blazing flames surged as he sat cross-legged on the cauldron. He was like a god descending in the flames, blocking the siege of several experts from the Devil Religion. However, the experts from the Devil Religion were not weak. There were 2 Nirvana Realm experts among them. They were arranged to deal with Venerable Alchemy and had been suppressing him. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the entire Alpha Hall. The scene before his eyes made Du Xiaofu's heart heavy. The devil religion and the divine light court had joined forces and came prepared. They were here to massacre the Imperial Pivot Hall. At every moment, there would be Alpha Hall experts and disciples dying amidst their miserable screams. Corpses littered the ground. The people of the devil religion and the divine light court began a brutal massacre in the Dubhi Hall. Son of a bitch, kill! Du Xiaofu roared in anger. The violet gold heavenly tower in his hand roared as the golden wings of the great rock flapped behind him. Terrifying ripples of golden light expanded outwards, as if a peerless, ferocious bird was descending. Profound soul eye. Hegemonic sword path. Du Xiaofu went on a killing spree and charged out furiously. His hair fluttered in the wind, and blood splattered everywhere the sword ray passed. No one could stop him. Roar. Little Xingxing roared. Under that terrifying aura, all the meridians and spirits in the air trembled. They were all greatly affected. Little Xingxing's ferocious dragon body and dragon tail flew everywhere, causing the space to almost collapse. Many experts of the devil religion and the divine light court were smashed to pieces. One man and one dragon, both had abnormal defensive power. They were simply invincible in such a chaotic battle. No one could stop them wherever they passed. Go, all of you go. Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing joined forces and opened a bloody path in the siege of the experts of the devil religion and the divine light court. They shouted for the disciples of the Dubhi Hall to escape. Young Hall Master, we won't go. We'll fight it out with them. Some disciples' eyes were red. Blood dyed their clothes red, and they were covered in wounds. Tears welled up in their eyes, and they couldn't bear to leave. All of you, leave. Where there's life, there's hope. Du Xiaofu shouted. He told the disciples of the 7-star hall to leave as long as they could. Otherwise, it would be difficult to stay alive today. Hurry up and deal with Du Xiaofu and the dragon. Don't let them go. The Yin Thunder Elder shouted. He had already been severely punished for his failure on the Tianhuang continent. This time, he came to deal with Du Xiaofu and the Weapon Lord. Of course, he wouldn't let them go. However, the Yin Thunder Elder was entangled with venerable Qian Xing and couldn't get away. Whoosh! However, as soon as the Yin Thunder Elder finished speaking, two people from the devil religion, one fat and one thin, dressed in black and white robes, stood in front of Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing. Their faces were covered by their robes, but their eyes were full of killing intent. It's the chaotic element Martial Venerable. Du Xiaofu had been secretly paying attention to the two experts from the devil religion. They were still besieging the alchemy Venerable just now. Their auras were at the chaotic element Martial Venerable level, which wasn't much weaker than his master Gu Qingyang. Father, these two guys are not easy to deal with. Little Xingxing's voice reached Du Xiaofu's ears. His pale golden dragon eyes were cold and majestic, like a supreme being. Be careful. Don't get entangled with them. Du Xiaofu reminded Little Xingxing. The purple gold heavenly tower in his hand buzzed, and the golden rock wings on his back burst into a golden light storm. He slashed at the two chaotic element Martial Venerables with his sword. Whoosh! When the sword slashed out, the space in front of the sword radiance made a whoosh sound. It shattered the space and reached the two chaotic element Martial Venerables in black and white robes. The silver net soul devouring thunder is on this kid. Capture him alive. The white-robed chaotic element Martial Venerable's eyes darkened. Dark chi surged out of his body and turned into a claw mark that distorted space. It emitted a billowing demonic aura and blocked Du Xiaofu's sword. Whoosh! The latter's claw shattered the sword radiance and shook Du Xiaofu so much that he staggered back. The web between his thumb and index finger hurt, and the blood in his body surged. He groaned and a sweet taste gushed out of his mouth, which was then forcefully swallowed. The white-robed chaotic element Martial Venerable only took a step back, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. Roar! At the same time, Little Xingxing had already pounced on the black-robed chaotic element Martial Venerable. A terrifying dragon's aura spread, and flames surged as it flapped its wings. The star mysteries on its body seemed to have brought about a dazzling galaxy and a divine dragon descending from the sky. It was terrifying. Du Xiaofu saw little Xingxing's strength. Although it was not at the peak of the complete beast venerable realm like Dragon 9, it was superior to Dragon 9 in terms of strength and power. This kid has some strength, but it's not enough. Without any delay, the white-robed chaotic element Martial Venerable continued to pounce on Du Xiaofu. His aura surged, and he channeled the energy of heaven and earth. The wind and clouds surged, and dark clouds pressed down. It was as if the world was about to end. That terrifying aura collapsed. The chaotic element Martial Venerable was much stronger than a transcendent Martial Venerable. Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed, and the golden rock wings were also forcefully restrained. The chaotic element Martial Venerable was definitely a top expert in this world. How many people in this world could reach the level of the chaotic element Martial Venerable? Among all living things, it was difficult for 1 in a billion people to reach the level of the chaotic element Martial Venerable. Boom! Golden light shot out, and the space trembled. The golden phantom of the Five-Finger Mountain appeared behind Du Xiaofu, and it evolved as if it had been given life. Dense spiritual energy spread out, and the golden phantom of the Five-Finger Mountain communicated with the energy of heaven and earth. A terrifying power spread out. In the face of the collapsing aura, the phantom of the Five-Finger Mountain's aura surged. Its aura was like a rainbow, and multicolored light exploded. The sky was filled with golden talisman runes, and it was as if it could crush and suppress all things in the world. So it's still an earth-vein spirit. The white-robed chaotic element Martial Reverend's gloomy voice sounded, and the aura on his body continued to strengthen. Within a short few breaths, the terrifying aura collapsed, causing the space to solidify and suffocate one's breathing as it continued to press down on the mountain vein spirit. The Five-Finger Mountain's vein spirit continued to evolve, and it was inviolable. The golden talisman runes were like a vast ocean, and it swept up like a golden ocean. The white-robed chaotic element Martial Venerable was more and more surprised. He had used all his strength, but he was still unable to suppress Du Xiaofu's vein spirit. This was too shocking. Finally, the white-robed chaotic element Martial Venerable activated the nearest vein spirit with an ugly expression. It was a white-scaled flood dragon, and it had a terrifying aura. It coiled around Du Xiaofu's Five-Finger Mountain's vein spirit. The two human vein spirits fought, and for a moment, the wind and clouds surged in the sky. The light was resplendent, and the runes were incomparably gorgeous. The aura contained was extremely terrifying. Kill. On the ground and at a low altitude, the remaining people of the Seven-Star Hall were led by the severely injured elders and protectors. They were divided into many groups and broke out from all directions. Many puppets also appeared in the Imperial Pivot Hall, which became a terrifying force to resist the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court. This puppet army was the masterpiece of the weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei. If it were not for the puppet army, the people of the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court would have already washed the Imperial Pivot Hall clean with blood at the speed of a whirlwind. Even in front of this puppet army, many of the puppets would not be able to resist Du Xiaofu's Cloud Beast. They killed many people of the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court. There were also many small formations activated in the Imperial Pivot Hall, which blocked the advance of the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court. Many disciples of the Seven-Star Hall took advantage of the formation to break out. But the overall situation was still that the Seven-Star Hall was being slaughtered. The battle was tragic. Disciples, leave quickly. Where there's life, there's hope. Elder Chui Fu's voice sounded in the fierce battle. Her left arm had been cut off and was dripping with blood. The runes on her body began to shine brightly, and her aura soared. Finally, her body expanded and exploded in mid-air. Rumble. A terrifying aura rushed into the sky. Elder Chui Fu's body exploded, blocking many pursuers of the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court, and buying some time for the disciples. Elder. The disciples of the Seven-Star Hall roared in grief and anger. Their eyes were red and dripping with blood as they watched their elder explode. Chapter 11:31. Moksha returns. Go. All of you go, Quickly, Elder Zhu Xiu shouted loudly, activating the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron in front of him. He had already used all his strength, and his body was dripping with blood. Facing the many experts of the devil religion and the divine light court, he shouted angrily, "I'll fight you to the death." Bang bang. Elder Zhu Xiu's spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron had self-destructed, and his spirit had been destroyed to buy time for the disciples. Elder Zhu Xiu. The disciples of the Seven-Star Hall shed tears of grief and indignation. Elder Zhu Xiu. Du Xiaofu shouted angrily. The elder who had protected him had disappeared just like that, dying at the hands of the devil religion and the divine light court. Du Xiaofu was grieving, and his anger could not be suppressed. A mysterious talisman pattern spread out, turning into a light net that covered his entire body. Boom! At this moment, an ancient aura spread out from Du Xiaofu's body, and a tyrannical killing intent rippled through the sky. What a terrifying aura! At this moment, the white-robed primordial element martial ancestor's eyes were filled with shock. Rumble. All of a sudden, thunderclouds gathered in the sky, and the rumbling of thunder resounded through the sky. An aura that made one's soul palpitate suddenly rippled through the void, and continued to spread into the distance, making all living beings fearful. The sound of thunder resounded, and the entire void trembled. An extremely shocking, killing aura fluctuated, and the purple lightning seemed to have turned into countless spiritual snakes that shuttled through the void, making one's hair stand on end and feel a chill in one's heart. Du Xiaofu had finally activated the lightning martial vein. What kind of martial vein is this? The white-robed primordial origin martial venerate's eyes were filled with shock. He could clearly sense the terrifying pressure emanating from Du Xiaofu's martial vein. It was like a martial vein supremacy. His vein spirit and primordial origin martial venerate's aura were about to submit to the vein spirit's aura. The white-robed origin martial honorable used all his strength, continuously activating his martial vein spirit. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu was using the true lightning martial vein, as if he was a supreme martial vein. The tyrannical killing intent swept through everything, and the lightning arcs surged into the 9 heavens. No matter how hard the white-robed primordial martial honorable tried, he was unable to do anything. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's meridian spirit and thunder martial vein were unable to do anything to the former. After all, the difference between a Permitha revered martial artist and a chaotic element revered martial artist was too great. Chi la la, purple lightning flashed across the sky, causing the void to tremble incessantly. Du Xiaofu's thunder martial vein carried purple thunder and lightning. It was as if countless bombs had exploded in midair. The destructive power soared into the sky. Rumble. A low rumble of thunder reverberated through the world, startling everyone around. High in the sky, the Yin Thunder Elder, Shengguang Skylord, and the figure of thunder and lightning all cast their gazes over, rippling. Let me do it. Just as the white-robed primordial martial honorable and Du Xiaofu were in a stalemate, a faint voice rang out. The surrounding lightning arcs suddenly twisted, and then a handsome youth slowly descended from the void. The youth's body was surrounded by faint lightning arcs. Under the pressure of Du Xiaofu's thunder martial vein, he was still able to remain calm. The youth's face seemed to be carefully sculpted, and the smile at the corner of his mouth contained a hint of playfulness, with a hint of devilish evilness. This kind of devilish evilness was more dangerous and evil than the devilish evilness on Li Yuxiao's body, causing the aura on his body to be very complicated. Boom! The youth appeared, looking at Du Xiaofu. His handsome face suddenly looked fierce. The runes on his body flashed, and the runes on his body flickered. A bright lightning rune, accompanied by a great power, directly enveloped Du Xiaofu. At this moment, the power of the lightning brought by the youth was no less than that of Du Xiaofu's thunder martial vein. The terrifying power shook the 9 heavens. Moksha! Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with lightning. Du Xiaofu couldn't forget this handsome youth. It was Moksha of the devil religion, who had fought to a draw with him in the divine thunder mansion. Lord Moksha, I'll take my leave first. As Moksha made his move, The white-robed chaotic element Martial Honorable immediately retreated, secretly gasping. At this moment, under the two terrifying powers, it was as if the chaotic element Martial Honorable would be crushed. Then, the white-robed chaotic element Martial Honorable retreated and pounced on little Xingxing's body, joining forces with the black-robed chaotic element Martial Honorable to deal with little Xingxing's body. Little Xingxing was originally not at a disadvantage, but now, with the addition of the white-robed chaotic element Martial Honorable, he was immediately suppressed. Roar. The dragon's roar shook the sky, and black runes suddenly burst out from little Xingxing's dragon body. A tortoise shell-like armor covered the surface of his body. Walala! The black tortoiseshell-like runes swept across the sky, blocking the attacks of the two chaotic element Martial Honorables. It was indestructible, and there was no pressure. Treasure. A defensive treasure. The white-robed and black-robed chaotic element Martial Honorable's eyes turned red at the same time. The black tortoiseshell-like armor was definitely a treasure. Their combined attacks were ineffective against it, and they did not even leave a mark. Boom. However, although little Xingxing's huge and ferocious dragon body was protected by the tortoiseshell-like armor, he was still forced to retreat under the combined attacks of the two chaotic element Martial Honorables. The surrounding space and ground cracked and exploded. Rumble. Du Xiaofu and Moksha clashed violently. The lightning in their eyes became more intense, and the purple lightning was resplendent. At this moment, Moksha also activated his martial vein. His martial vein was related to lightning. Billowing demonic aura filled the sky, and the surrounding black lightning was boiling. Under that terrifying pressure, everyone's soul trembled, and they almost knelt down. What a powerful martial vein. Complete Martial Honorable. Du Xiaofu was a little surprised. This was the first time he had encountered such a powerful martial vein. It was related to lightning, and it was not inferior to his own lightning martial vein. This time, I can fight with all my might. Moksha spoke and attacked fiercely. A black lightning halo spread out from his body and enveloped Du Xiaofu. Kill. Du Xiaofu's golden wings spread out behind him, and they were covered with lightning. He was like a purple-gold thunder rock, and he was the sole ruler. As the two exchanged blows, the pressure descended and raised a large area of the Alpha Hall to the ground. It attracted many people's attention. Moksha was wrapped in black lightning, and his hair danced behind him. He had an indescribable sense of danger and evil, as if the demon lord had descended to the mortal world. Du Xiaofu's purple-gold thunder surged, and his hair danced. He flapped his wings and shook the 9 heavens, shattering the frozen void. He had transformed into the real Demon King, a Demon King and a Demon Lord. The two were fighting fiercely, and it made people's souls tremble as they watched from afar. The people of the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court who were nearby were also affected by the battle between the two demon gods. They felt their blood run cold, and they quickly retreated. A deep sense of fear surged out from the depths of everyone's primordial spirits, and their primordial spirits trembled. PFFF. High up in the sky, Mad Elder spat out blood as his body was continuously pushed back. PFFF. Not long after, Supremacy Qian Xing also coughed out blood under the Lightning Elder's attacks. PFFF. Venerable Pill also spat out blood in the sky. His cauldron was cracked by the combined attacks of many experts, causing him to suffer heavy injuries. Minister GMO, you are still a little weak. High up in the sky, the lightning figure shouted. Lightning rippled in his eyes, and terrifying arcs of lightning wrapped around 9 Lives Supremacy GMO roar. GMO activated his Vein Soul and Martial Vein. The Vein Soul took the form of a gigantic tiger. Its aura soared to the heavens. Its murderous aura was terrifying as it roared through the skies, causing the mountains around the blood battlefield to tremble. Kill. The remaining elders and enforcers of the 7-star hall were still engaged in a bloody battle. Their eyes were red, and their bodies were covered in blood. Arrows at the end of their flight. Kill. The experts of the Devil Religion and the Divine Light Court charged forward. Instantly, screams of pain rang out. Many of the 7-star hall's elders and enforcers were turned into blood mist, their souls extinguished. Bang! High up in the sky, weapon-revered Xiahou Feng Lei was hit by the beautiful woman's palm. His body was pushed back, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. PFFF, Venerable Pill spat out blood again. His spirit talisman master robe was covered in blood, and his cauldron was also cracking. Venerable Pill could no longer hold on under such a siege. Among the many attackers, 2 of them were Nirvana martial sovereigns, and were the most difficult to deal with. Old Third, you leave first, quickly leave. High up in the sky, Mad Elder shouted. As a spirit talisman master, Venerable Pill's attack power was one of the weakest among them. Under such a siege, it would be difficult for him to survive. However, if Venerable Pill wanted to escape, he should be able to do so. Mad Elder knew Old Third's methods. Boss, how can I leave? Listen to me. Protect Xiaofu and leave. As long as Xiaofu is here, the 7-star hall will not be destroyed. Venerable Pill's pale face revealed a smile. Blood dripped from between his lips and teeth, revealing a cruel and mournful expression. Then, the cauldron overflowed with light, and the cracks began to heal. Its aura became more and more terrifying. Old Third, don't. At this moment, the famous GMO official in the sky seemed to have sensed something. He shouted loudly, his voice shaking the 9 heavens. Not good. This old guy is going to self-destruct. The experts of the devil religion and the divine light court who were besieging Venerable Pill also sensed something at this moment. Their primordial spirits trembled, and their gazes changed greatly. They immediately retreated. Boss, Old Fourth, Old Seventh, I will leave first. Xiaofu, for the 7-star hall, quickly leave. You are the hope of the 7-star hall. As Venerable Pill's voice fell, his body, cauldron expanded, and finally exploded. An earth-shattering power swept through the air, and an earth-shattering explosion resounded in the void. Rumble. Terrifying energy spread out from Venerable Pill and the cauldron in front of him. It rushed out like lightning, causing the void to ripple violently. Chapter 1132. The devil religion and divine light court's chaos element martial lords who were slower to escape were instantly annihilated. Within the heavenly pivot hall, the mountain peaks suddenly exploded, and the ground exploded into a ravine. That large area of virtual control was in chaos, revealing pitch-black spatial cracks. Some people's meridians and souls were destroyed. Some experts who were in the middle of a fierce battle were affected and were severely injured. Countless eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Venerated Pill's self-destruction sent a terrifying rune energy into the sky like a huge wave. Many experts from the devil religion and divine light court were killed. The 2 Nirvana realm martial artists who were attacking Venerated Pill didn't manage to escape completely. They spat out blood and were sent flying. Fortunately, they managed to keep their lives. The self-destruction of an 8-star Nirvana realm expert is too terrifying. The fierce battles all around were affected. The experts from the devil religion and divine light court trembled and swallowed their saliva. Some people were not far away, but they managed to escape the disaster. They were still trembling with lingering fear. In the sky, with Venerated Pill's self-destruction as the center, the terrifying energy surged out in a circular ripple. Everything around was destroyed. The terrifying energy spread thousands of feet away before it subsided. Countless people retreated pathetically. Third brother, Xiahou Feng Lei, Jimo's minister, Mad Sovereign, and Qian Xing cried out in grief. Their eyes were moist. Bang bang! 9 Lives Sovereign, Jimo's minister, Qian Xing, and Mad Sovereign were affected. They were hit by the lightning figure, Divine Light Sovereign, and Een Thunder Elder respectively. Senior Granduncle. The disciples in Dubhy Hall cried. Venerated Pill was forced to self-destruct just like that. Even if he died, he would drag along many stepping stones and reduce the pressure on them. The battle between Du Xiaofu and Imo Sha was also affected. That terrifying shockwave swept over, and the 2 of them had no choice but to retreat. Third Senior Uncle. Du Xiaofu roared at the sky. His 3rd senior uncle's self-destruction caused his lively face to disappear from this world forever. Du Xiaofu was in grief. He felt as if his heart had suffered a heavy blow. He spat out a mouthful of pale golden blood. Boom! The space trembled, and a flame-like thunderbolt swept toward Moksha, who had just been forced back. It was the 3,000 vibrating thunderbolt, a venerable weapon. But soon after, the beautiful woman appeared. Her talisman turned into a light screen, cutting off the 3,000 jolting lightning. She nervously guarded Moksha's body, fearing that weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei would attack Moksha. Xiaofu is my disciple. Weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. His eyes were filled with pain as he transmitted his voice to Du Xiaofu. They came prepared today. Everything has been settled. Compared to the devil religion, the seven-star hall is ultimately too weak. Fortunately, there is a successor for the seven-star hall. From now on, the seven-star hall will truly be handed over to you. As his voice fell, weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei revealed a gentle smile. He formed a seal with his hands, and a flame-like thunderbolt suddenly burst out from between his eyebrows. Suddenly, it swept into Du Xiaofu's glabella. Xiaofu, this is the soul seed of the 3,000 jolting lightning. I'll leave it with you. When the soul seed stabilizes one day, and you become familiar with it, it can be used by you. They came for me, so they naturally won't let me leave so easily today. But don't worry, the soul seed of the 3,000 jolting lightning is with you. If they can't get the 3,000 jolting lightning, they won't do anything to me. I still have the 3,000 jolting lightning to protect me. It won't be easy for them to do anything to me. But if something really happens to me, you will know through the 3,000 jolting lightning. At that time, the 3,000 jolting lightning will become ownerless, and you can completely fuse with it. It shouldn't be easy for you to fuse two types of spiritual lightning, but if you can successfully fuse them, I believe it will be enough to greatly increase your strength. I picked you up as a disciple for free, and I didn't give you much guidance. However, you are talented and intelligent, and most importantly, you have a firm and unyielding heart. In the future, you will definitely be able to reach a height that surpasses Master. Master, don't. As the flame and lightning swept into the space between his eyebrows, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit trembled. His whole body trembled as he listened to his master's words. His heart trembled, and he bit his lips. Xiaofu is my disciple. I have already sent a message to your fifth martial uncle. He will send you away. Remember, before your cultivation is insufficient, don't appear rashly, and don't go against the devil religion. You are the hope of the seven-star hall, and you are also the disciple I am proud of. There are countless people waiting for you behind the scenes. After the old voice fell in Du Xiaofu's mind, it slowly disappeared, and a flame-like imprint was left between his eyebrows. At this moment, outside Du Xiaofu's Naiwan palace, there was a silent flame and lightning entrenched, without any fluctuations. You want to convert the 3,000 jolting lightning? It was also at this moment that the beautiful woman from the devil religion rushed to the revered weapon. The surrounding space froze, and dazzling runes surged. A claw wrapped around the void, twisting a large area of space, causing the surrounding space to twist together like a fried dough twist. The space trembled, and the revered weapon Xiahou Fenglei was trapped. Dazzling runes surged, and then bound Xiahou Fenglei. The revered weapon Xiahou Fenglei didn't struggle, but his body was wrapped in raging flames and lightning. Master! Du Xiaofu opened his eyes and looked at his trapped master. He cried out in grief, and his heart ached. His breath was surging, and his mouth was full of pale golden blood. The 3,000 jolting lightning has already landed on your body. Since I have to capture you, it saves me time. The beautiful woman looked at Du Xiaofu coldly and rushed out like lightning. A claw pressed towards Du Xiaofu, wanting to restrict Du Xiaofu. Dad, be careful. A tender voice rang out, and golden light shot out. A dazzling ink-black rune light descended, and suddenly, an illusory beast roared out like a dragon. Roar! This illusory beast shadow was as black as ink, dazzling to the eyes. It was over 10,000 feet in size, and its entire body was covered in scales. Its entire body was black as ink, and the tortoise and snake intertwined like a living creature. It brought with it a huge pressure as it descended. Rumble! The majestic power spread out, and even the space was distorted. Spatial ripples spread out in all directions, causing the space to tremble. All of a sudden, a terrifying energy came from all directions. A strange energy began to gather, and the terrifying energy emitted from it caused spatial cracks to appear in the surrounding void. This terrifying energy was not inferior to that of a real dragon. It was like a supreme being. Boom, boom, boom. Within this beast shadow, there was a terrifying energy that swept out. Many people's meridian souls began to explode one after another, starting from the weakest meridian soul phantoms. Some of the weaker people were even crushed by the terrifying energy, and a monstrous blood mist poured down. Boom, boom, boom. Many people's bodies exploded like firecrackers, and blood mist poured down. Not even a corpse was left, and there were endless screams and wails. The ink-black beast shadow intertwined with the tortoise and snake, and it actually blocked the terrifying claw. The claw tore through space, but it only managed to create 5 concave cracks on the pitch-black beast silhouette that was intersecting with the tortoise and snake. Chi, chi, chi. The sharp sound of wind breaking resounded, and the space exploded. Finally, everything disappeared. Dad. Little Xing did not know that he had escaped from the siege of the 2 chaotic element martial honorables. At that moment, his huge dragon body flew over, and when he landed beside Du Xiaofu, he withdrew his original body. At that moment, little Xing's originally pink face was as pale as ash. The corner of his mouth was dripping with blood, and his aura was extremely weak. Dad, I can't take it anymore. Those bastards are too strong. My black tortoise divine shell can protect us. Let's go. At that moment, little Xing's tender voice sounded weak. He had escaped from 2 chaotic element martial honorables, and he had just endured the attack of the beautiful woman's claw. Even the current Du Xiaofu could not compare to his defensive power. Little Xing, protect yourself. Du Xiaofu's eyes glowed with a snowy light. Lightning raged in his eyes, but they were filled with sorrow. Chi chi, purple gold lightning flashed in Du Xiaofu's palm. At this moment, Du Xiaofu did not want to care about anything. Du Xiaofu wanted to activate the purple lightning profound cauldron. He wanted to fight with all his might, take back his trapped master, and avenge his 3rd martial uncle, the elders, guardians, and disciples. Xiaofu, you are the hope of the 7-star hall. From now on, the 7-star hall will be handed over to you. I will send you off. At that moment, the space in front of Du Xiaofu trembled. The figure of 9 lives Honorable GMO appeared, accompanied by a terrifying energy fluctuation. Resplendent runes shone like the sun. In the next instant, the mysterious runes on Gmo's body spread out and tore a spatial crack in front of him. Crack, crack, as the talisman runes spread out from the body of 9 lives sage, GMO. These talisman runes were complex and caused the surrounding void to explode. An obscure energy that could affect space-time appeared and emitted a powerful ripple. Under this powerful fluctuation, the surrounding void was affected. It was as if the entire space was trembling and shaking. In front of Gmo's body, a circle of pitch-black spatial crack slowly appeared in the torn space, faintly emitting a fluctuation that could distort space. Not good. He is trying to escape. Moksha was faintly blocked behind the beautiful woman. When he saw the fluctuation emitted from Gmo's body, he seemed to have sensed something and immediately shouted. Chapter 11:33. Swish. In the space in front of Gmo's official, the space energy rippled and flashed, turning into a bright light that enveloped Du Xiaofu and little Xing. The power of space spread out and swept Du Xiaofu and little Xing into the space crack, causing the space around them to distort and disappear. It's a space martial vein. Gmo's martial vein is a space martial vein. He wants to use space shift to escape. The beautiful woman also noticed the ripple, and her expression immediately changed. She quickly rushed towards Gmo's official, intending to stop him from escaping. You think I want to escape? I have no intention of leaving. Gmo's official turned his head. His hand seals changed at lightning speed. Bright runes exploded, and his space martial vein started to emit space ripples. Jimo's official used all his strength to stop the beautiful woman from approaching, allowing Du Xiaofu and little Xing Xing to safely escape. You want to send that brat away? Not so easy. The lightning figure appeared once again and attacked together with the beautiful woman. A vast lightning bolt tore through the sky and violently struck the distorted space. Jimo's official tried his best to block, but in the end, he was unable to withstand the combined attack of the beautiful woman and the lightning figure. Blood spurted out from his mouth as he was heavily injured. Boom! The lightning figure sent out a huge lightning bolt that pierced through the void and hit the space crack that was about to close, causing the space crack to shake and shatter. Space shift has been affected. Xiaofu, protect yourselves. Everything will depend on the will of the heavens. If we can escape this calamity, we will trample the divine light court and devil religion and avenge the 7-star hall's disciples. Jimo's official finished his words, but at the same time, he received another joint attack from the beautiful woman and the lightning figure, causing blood to spurt out from his mouth. Du Xiaofu turned his head in the dissipating space crack and saw his fifth martial uncle, Jimo's bloody eyes as he angrily shouted, "Devil religion, divine light court, if I don't die, I will tear all of you into pieces one day and avenge the 7-star hall's annihilation 100-fold. His voice surged, overflowing with anger and hatred, echoing in the air for a long time without dispersing. Then, everything disappeared in midair. In the end, the shattered space crack also shook and exploded, turning into a bunch of bright fireworks that exploded in the void. Dazzling shattered runes that filled the sky. Everything then disappeared. Boom boom. The beautiful woman and the lightning figure once again joined forces to attack GMO-chan. Resplendent lightning and runes descended upon GMO-chan, suppressing him. Space shift has been affected. If that brat Du Xiaofu doesn't die, GMO might send him to the ancient heaven sect of the central region. Let's surround him halfway. That brat has the 3,000 jolting lightning and silver sifting soul devouring lightning, and his martial vein is also strange. We can't let him go. The beautiful woman spoke with a gloomy expression. This time, the devil religion came prepared with the divine light court. Their main target was Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaofu. Who knew that they would let him leave with the 3,000 jolting lightning? They definitely couldn't let him go. Once Du Xiaofu reached the ancient heaven sect, it would be much more troublesome to make a move. Let's go. The lightning figure waved his hand and left with many figures from the devil religion. They wanted to surround Du Xiaofu halfway. If Du Xiaofu didn't die, it would be difficult for him to escape from their encirclement in front of the ancient heaven sect of the central region. In the beautiful woman's hand, the restricted GMO official sneered and then closed his eyes. Inside Dubhe Hall, blood had already formed a river and corpses were everywhere. The remaining 7-star hall elders, guardians, and disciples were already at the end of their rope. There were people constantly self-destructing, but they couldn't cause much of a commotion. The fierce battle in the sky was so bright that it was difficult for people to peek inside. When everything finally calmed down, the spectators outside Dubhe Hall could finally see clearly. At this moment, Dubhe Hall was almost razed to the ground. There was blood everywhere. The people of the Divine Light Court were cleaning the battlefield and seizing the spoils of war. Moksha stood in the air with a calm expression. The corner of his mouth seemed to always have a devilish smile. He glanced around. Profound energy surged under his feet, and his figure disappeared. The people of the devil religion also left and disappeared in the air. What about Mad Revered and the others? Are they dead? It seems that many experts self-destructed. Dubhe Hall has been bathed in blood this time. I'm afraid the other halls won't be able to survive. The 7-star hall has been destroyed. Almost all the experts have been slaughtered. Demon King Du Xiaofu seems to have escaped. It was only after the people of the devil religion left that the spectators dared to come closer. They sighed as they looked at the blood flowing like rivers in the 7-star hall. The scene of blood flowing like rivers could only be described as tragic and heroic. From now on, it would be difficult for Spirit Realm to have another 7-star hall. The smell of blood filled the air, and the remnants of devil energy left in the air. The spectators around Dubhe Hall were stunned. The previous battle had been earth-shattering and distorted the void. It was difficult to see inside. Only the shocking sounds of explosions echoed in people's minds. But now, everything had been turned into ruins. No one would have thought that the seven-star hall, which was growing stronger by the day, and Dubhy Hall, which had many experts, would be destroyed without any warning. And in today's battle, there was more than one martial domain realm expert who appeared and disappeared. There were also super experts who self-destructed, shocking everyone for a long time. Demon King Du Xiaofu seems to have escaped. If he escapes this disaster, I'm afraid he won't let this go. The devil religion is too terrifying. It is said that they have been in this world for many years. Their foundation is even stronger than the ancient Heaven sect and the Great Wheel sect. But Du Xiaofu's talent is also terrifying. In time, he will definitely become the strongest expert in the world. Some people discussed in shock. Facing the power of the devil religion, people secretly smacked their lips. But no one was a fool. Everyone knew about the Demon King Du Xiaofu's talent. He had the title of #1 in the younger generation of Kyushu. After escaping today, with the Demon King Du Xiaofu's potential, it was equivalent to letting a tiger return to the mountain. Perhaps in the future, the devil religion and the divine light court would face terrifying revenge. The Demon King Du Xiaofu's character was absolutely ferocious. When the time came, the devil religion and the divine light court would definitely pay an extremely painful price. There were also people who thought that the devil religion was powerful and had a long history. No matter how strong a person was, he could not shake the devil religion. Maybe he would meet an expert of the devil religion midway and would die. But in the end, no one objected. As long as the Demon King Du Xiaofu did not die, he would definitely become the devil religion and the divine light court's most dangerous bomb in the future. The news of the seven-star hall's Alpha Hall being destroyed spread through Spirit Realm like a bomb. In Spirit Realm, the news of the Alpha Hall being destroyed and the Demon King Du Xiaofu possibly escaping spread to all the major forces of the ancient realm. It even spread to all of Kyushu. When this news spread, all the major and minor forces were stunned. This was the first time the devil religion had appeared so openly. Their intentions were hard to understand. However, the power and terror of the demonic sect made people fearful. When the news of the Alpha Hall being destroyed spread, at a certain place in this world, clouds and mist curled around it as if it had reached the end of the world. Inside was a vast and boundless plain. It was as vast as the Milky Way. The time here seemed to be frozen. Time seemed to have lost its meaning in this place. On the vast and boundless plain, there was a faint and cold tranquility. Only the occasional cloud floating in the sky could prove that this space was normal and not a land of death. Looking from afar, there was a huge circle in the plain. The arc in the middle was divided into two, forming the two extremes of yin and yang. It was faintly discernible, but no one could see it, because this seemed to be a pure land that did not belong to the mortal world. No living beings could set foot in it. Then, above this pure land where living beings could not set foot, a floating palace suddenly appeared amidst the fluttering clouds in the sky. This enormous palace did not have anything to lift it up, and there were no signs of talisman or rays. It just floated in the air miraculously like a miracle. Sigh. Suddenly, a sigh came from inside the palace. A middle-aged man stood outside the palace with his hands behind his back. This middle-aged man wore a plain robe, but it could not conceal his ethereal temperament. His eyes silently looked down at the vast and boundless plain below, as if he was thinking about something. This middle-aged man stood outside the palace as if he was the ruler of this world. His every move seemed to have fused naturally with the space of the earth. The expression on his face was calm and subtle. Suddenly, the middle-aged man slightly raised his head to look at the sky. Faint runes flashed in his eyes. The soundless aura rippled, but it caused the space to quietly tremble. Have they arrived? A figure descended. It was a youth who seemed to be only 12 or 13 years old. However, there was no immaturity on the youth's face. Instead, it was filled with vicissitudes and wisdom. His eyes, which were as deep as black holes, seemed to be able to see through space and see past and present lives. No, you're the first one to arrive. The middle-aged man looked at the youth with a calm gaze and said, But the second one has already arrived. Why did you make me come all the way here? Where's that old bastard? Has he arrived? I'm not done with him. If I see him, I'll definitely fight to the death. Chapter 11:34. As the white-robed middle-aged man spoke, a figure appeared in midair. Light flickered on his body as he landed outside the palace. It was an old man with disheveled hair. He was extremely sloppy and his hair was disheveled. The old man's sloppiness was not much better than Fuibai's. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would definitely be able to recognize that the old man was the one who had been chasing after Fuibai outside the Divine Lightning Mountain range. The two of them have never been here. Don't bother about them. Just treat it as if there are only the three of us, the young man said faintly. That old bastard only knows how to hide. I will find him eventually. The sloppy old man shouted. He was extremely angry and resentful. Those 8 places have already been broken. The evil spirit has already appeared and is probably recovering. We don't have much time left. The white-robed middle-aged man took a step forward and looked down at the plains. An aura rippled from his body as if it was the cycle of reincarnation. It was very mysterious. He said to the young man and the sloppy old man, "The 9 divine lightning cauldrons have already appeared. 8 of them are in the hands of the evil spirit. The remaining cauldron seems to have fallen into the hands of a rather strange kid. It has been so long. What will come in the end." The sloppy old man said with a slightly serious expression, "Who has the last divine lightning cauldron?" The young man looked at the white-robed middle-aged man and asked curiously, "That kid is extremely strange. He cultivates the cultivation technique of the Great Rock Clan, but he seems to have the lightning martial vein and the spiritual root of legalism," the white-robed middle-aged man said. "The lightning martial vein has appeared?" Hearing that, the young man and the sloppy old man trembled at the same time. Ripples flashed in their eyes at the same time as they looked surprised. The white-robed middle-aged man nodded and smiled faintly. "That kid's talent is also very strong. It's just that he was in danger just now. It was the devil religion that took action." The devil religion has finally appeared. A ripple flashed in the sloppy old man's eyes again as his expression became more serious. The evil spirit has already broken free. Those devil envoys and devil emperors no longer have any misgivings. The evil spirit will allow them to gradually recover. At that time, the great calamity of this world will begin. The white-robed middle-aged man said solemnly, "If the evil spirit were to recover, who in this world would be able to deal with it?" Back then, it was rumored that even when the utmost powerful beings and the dragon god joined forces, they could only suppress the evil spirit. The youth's eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life, and he sighed softly. Back then, the supreme expert and the dragon god would definitely have thought of this day, so they would have made arrangements. Perhaps that brat would be an opportunity. It's the arrangement of the supreme expert and the dragon god. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to take away that divine thunder cauldron. The white-robed middle-aged man said softly. He looked at the vast square below and said, "However, something has happened to that spatial crack. Looking at the direction, it should be in Shangzhou. Everything will have to wait until he is able to escape that calamity. If that brat really has a chance, we don't have much time left. Maybe we can help him a little. Otherwise, this world will really become a demon territory," the young man said. "Don't forget that the 9 great clans can't interfere with the matters of the outside world. We also have the ban of our sections. Similarly, we can't interfere with the matters of the outside world." The sloppy old man's eyes flickered and said, "The evil spirit has already broken free. Those remaining devil emperors will also come out soon. All these years, they have been hiding and there hasn't been any news about them. But according to the information I received, they haven't truly been peaceful. They have been using the devil religion to search for spiritual thunder in this world. What exactly are they searching for spiritual thunder for?" The white-robed middle-aged man also revealed a look of astonishment. He muttered softly, "Back then, there was only one thunder sovereign. I wonder if this world will be able to survive this calamity. The living beings will be plunged into misery and suffering again," the young man said. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes. The sloppy old man and the white-robed middle-aged man remained silent. Their eyes were solemn, whoosh. In the misty space, the surroundings were chaotic. There were flashes of light. Terrifying spatial currents whistled. The powerful spatial currents seemed to want to crush Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing's bodies. This feeling was very uncomfortable. No one knew how much time had passed. Under the suppression of the powerful spatial forces, their profound energy had solidified, making it difficult for them to breathe. They had been in a state of weightlessness all this time. Rumble. Suddenly, in this chaotic space, the space behind Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing exploded like a bomb. Dazzling surges of energy swept out along the spatial passageway. Wherever they passed, the space collapsed inch by inch, destroying everything. Father, this space is about to explode. My black tortoise divine shell can protect us. Come in quickly. Little Xingxing shouted in a panic. His young and tender face had a serious expression. He urged the black tortoise divine shell to protect his body. However, under the power of the spatial collapse, it was difficult for him to get close to Du Xiaofu. His face also became increasingly pale. You protect yourself. I have my own ways, Du Xiaofu shouted. Looking at little Xingxing's appearance, he knew that he did not have much energy left. Using the black tortoise divine shell to protect himself, and the two of them was naturally more stable than protecting one person. Moreover, he had the purple lightning profound cauldron and the ancient desolate space. He should be able to hide. The terrifying spatial collapse made Du Xiaofu aware of how terrifying it was. Back then, outside the heavenly wasteland city, Dongli Qingqing's spatial wormhole had an accident. The spatial collapse was destructive. However, before Du Xiaofu could finish his sentence, the terrifying spatial collapse had already swept over and enveloped the surroundings. Not good. The last thought appeared in Du Xiaofu's mind. He subconsciously activated the golden-winged rock cultivation technique. Du Xiaofu then felt a terrifying spatial force acting on his body. It was as if it wanted to tear his body apart. That kind of huge force was simply impossible for him to resist. Du Xiaofu, who was already seriously injured, had exhausted all of his energy. Under the terrifying power of the spatial collapse, Du Xiaofu lost consciousness. In a hazy state, Du Xiaofu was completely unaware of what was happening in the outside world. Only the last strand of consciousness in the primordial spirit in his Niwen palace remained. However, this consciousness was not completely awake. It was just that this consciousness kept telling Du Xiaofu that he must not die. He must live. The enmity of being separated from my family, the enmity of my sect, and the enmity of the academy have yet to be avenged. Master is still in the hands of the devil religion. I must not die. This consciousness was muddled. Du Xiaofu could not control his body, nor could he be completely awake. In the end, Du Xiaofu did not know whether he was alive or dead. Time passed slowly. It seemed like a long time had passed. In that muddled consciousness, Du Xiaofu felt as if he had been in a deep sleep for 100 years. His surroundings were pitch black. In a daze, he seemed to hear someone talking in his ear. Miss, he's awake. He's injured and on the verge of death. His bones are all white. It's a miracle that he can still survive. The voice faintly entered Du Xiaofu's consciousness. Du Xiaofu wanted to do something, but he found that everything was out of his control. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt as if he had become a wandering ghost. Then, the last wisp of muddled consciousness fell into a deep sleep. It had been more than half a month since the destruction of the Alpha Hall. The Seven-Star Hall existed in name only. When this news spread, the central region was shocked and Kyushu was in an uproar. The Seven Stars Hall's strength was well known to everyone. It possessed a few martial exalts at the peak of the Nirvana realm, and it also possessed experts at the domain like the Equipment Exalt Xiahou Fenglei and the Nine Lives Exalt Jima. It could be said to be a power that was closest to the Colossi like the 3 sects, 3 groups, and 1 valley and 2 schools. But now, the Seven-Star Hall had been destroyed. Weapon Venerable Xiahou Fenglei and 9 Lives Venerable Jima were missing. The fate of Mad Venerable and Venerable Qianxing was unknown. There was news that confirmed that the Alchemy Emperor of a generation, Venerable Dan, had self-detonated and the Alpha Hall had been razed to the ground. Only the demon king, Du Xiaofu, seemed to have escaped, but it was also unknown whether he was alive or dead. All the experts of the devil religion in the divine light court were searching for the demon king, Du Xiaofu. Even if he was still alive, once the demon king fell into the hands of the devil religion in the divine light court, he would be doomed. The strength of the devil religion is too terrifying. What kind of terrifying existence is it? The appearance of the devil religion in this way, and the destruction of the seven-star hall in one fell swoop, shocked the world and shocked all the forces. You still don't know, right? The ancient heaven sect and the divine light court fought, but the experts of the devil religion intervened. In the end, both sides seem to have retreated. Now that the divine light court has the devil religion behind them, they have found a backer. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to touch the seven-star hall. The ancient heaven sect naturally remembers the divine light court. The demon king, Du Xiaofu, is a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. It's just that the devil religion is too strong. Once the ancient heaven sect goes all out, it will involve too many people. Moreover, the demon king, Du Xiaofu, is still unknown. Some people speculated about the recent battle between the ancient heaven sect and the divine light court, which ended with both sides retreating. At the level of a force like the ancient heaven sect, a slight move in one part could affect the whole situation. Moreover, now is a special time. Once a real war broke out, there would be too many scruples. In the ancient heaven sect, peaks stood tall and surrounded by mountains. Chapter 11:35. The huge mountain peak in the middle was surrounded by other peaks. It was surrounded by lush greenery and clouds, and mist lingered in the air. Inside the mountain stream, the stream gurgled. In the distance, there were thousands of mountains, waves rising and falling. It was magnificent and boundless. On the mountain peak, the stone walls were steep. Looking from top to bottom, it seemed to be a bottomless abyss. At this moment, in front of the cliff, Sima Taxing Star was wearing a green robe embroidered with green patterns. His long black hair was neatly combed into a bun, with a few strands of hair hanging down from his ears. His clothes and hair looked elegant and graceful, setting off his slender and tall figure. Muha, don't worry. Your youngest martial uncle will be fine. Sima Taxing Star spoke to the back of a woman in front of him, his glazed eyes rippling. If something really happens to him, I will definitely wash the divine light court with blood one day and make that devil religion pay the price. The woman turned her head. On her beautiful face, there was a cold light rippling in her light purple eyes. Sima Taxing Star raised his head slightly. There was a faint luster flowing on his skin. He said softly, "Don't worry. The ancient sky sect will remember the debt between the divine light court and the devil religion. They will not let it go." In the mountain peak courtyard, the sun was setting in the west. The setting sun was like blood. A woman stood quietly. Her figure was slender, her whole body was delicate, and her eyes were bright. But at this moment, the space around the woman trembled slightly. A spiritual aura that made people's hearts tremble spread out. The woman's eyes were fixed on the sky in front of her. Her eyes were cold. If anything happens to him, I will not let the divine light court and the devil religion go. Swear, does he know that you are doing this for him? A deep voice sounded. Behind the beautiful woman, there was an old man in his 50s. His eyes were like the sea, rippling with a vast light. The woman lowered her eyebrows. Her eyebrows were curved, and her face was like white jade. Then, she turned slightly and looked up at the old man. Her face was like a flower, beautiful beyond compare. Ripples overflowed from her bright and spirited eyes. She opened her mouth and said, "Foster father, I remember you once told me not to ask if some things are worth it. Ask yourself if you should do it or not." Sigh. The old man smiled bitterly and sighed. He gently brushed a strand of hair away from the woman's forehead and said with a smile, "Don't worry. Although I haven't seen him, I've heard a lot about him. That guy has been able to come back from the dead several times, so he won't die so easily this time. Otherwise, the people of the divine light court wouldn't be looking for him everywhere. Of course, he definitely won't die. Back then, he was able to pull through, and now, he'll be able to do the same." Hearing this, The woman faintly smiled. Her bright eyes were determined. Haha, I'm looking forward to it now. With that kid's talent and savagery, I'm afraid he won't let the matter rest this time. When he appears again one day, I wonder how strong he will be. I'm afraid when the Supreme returns, the nightmare of the divine light court and the devil religion will begin. The old man smiled faintly. His eyes were deep and vast, and there was a hint of anticipation in them. At night, the mountain peaks were connected. The aura was ancient and boundless. The stars hung in the sky as if they were about to fall at any time. Moonlight shrouded the mountain peak. A woman stood there, enveloped in moonlight. She was like a real immortal who had descended to the mortal world. The woman's eyebrows were curved. She looked at the starry sky. Her eyes released a star-like brilliance in the night sky. However, at this moment, the starlight was filled with a dark aura. The woman was Chi-Yeshi. At this moment, her starry eyes were staring at the sky. She murmured, "The divine light court and the devil religion. If anything happens to him, I, Chi-Yeshi, swear that I will wash the mountains and rivers with blood and flatten the mountains." Chi-Yeshi's voice was bone-chillingly cold. Her murderous intent that was difficult to dissolve spread through the night sky. "Miss, you don't have to worry. With that brat's tenacity, he will definitely be fine. He has walked all the way to where he is now, so naturally, he is not someone who is ordinary. Perhaps this is a true form of training for him. Among the younger generation, it is already difficult for him to find an opponent in the outside world. Even Dragon 9 was killed by him. He is fearless and fearless. This will not benefit him much in the future. Although he is brave, it will make him lose his ability to think." An old man appeared behind Chi-Yeshi. His eyes were filled with fluctuations of starlight. He said softly, "This time, perhaps he will learn that the world is not as simple as he thinks. There are countless experts in the world. He is not weak among the younger generation, but among the experts in the world, he is far from enough. A true expert is not something that can be achieved with strength alone. Perhaps after this time, as long as he can stand up again, he will become a true expert in the future. At that time, perhaps he will truly be noticed by the elders in the family. At that time, there will be much less resistance to what you want to do." Hearing this, Chi-Yeshi raised her head slightly. Her jade-like hands clenched into fists. A moment later, her eyes were filled with ripples of starlight. She said, "I want to go into seclusion. I believe that he will be fine. I will not come out before I hear from him." "Miss, didn't you just come out of seclusion not long ago? It was not easy for you to ask the old man to let you go out for a few days. Why are you going into seclusion again?" The old man was puzzled. She had just come out of seclusion a few days ago. It was not easy for her to ask the old man to let her go out for a few days. This was a rare opportunity. His whereabouts are unknown. With my current strength, there is no way for me to destroy the divine light court and the devil religion. What am I going to do? Chi-Yeshi's fists relaxed slightly, and her voice calmed down. However, the gaze in her eyes grew deeper and colder. It was as cold as water at night, and it was enough to make one's heart tremble. She gently opened her mouth and said, "I want to increase my strength. When he appears again, I will be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with him." Night enveloped the space. The moon was bright and the stars were dim. The moonlight was like silk. The mountains were boundless, and the huge cities were all covered by the curtain of night. It was like a huge black dragon winding across the horizon. The mountains overlapped and the palaces stood tall. It was as if the heavenly palace had descended to the mortal world. There were several people sitting in the main hall. Their auras solidified and distorted the void. These people were the beautiful woman from the devil religion, the lightning figure, the Yin Thunder Elder, and Shengguang Tianzuan from the divine light court. In addition, there were two perfect round martial venerables in black and white robes who had besieged Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing. There were also two Nirvana martial venerables who had besieged alchemy venerables and were severely injured by the explosion of alchemy venerables. With so many people, they were a terrifying force in this world. They were enough to raise all the forces except for the 3 sects, 3 schools, and 1 valley and 2 religions. Search, continue searching. That Du Xiaofu already has the soul seed of the silver-sifting soul devouring lightning and the 3,000 vibrating lightning. We must not let him go. In the hall, the beautiful woman's body was also fluctuating with lightning. There was a strange lightning in her eyes, and there was a devil aura lingering around her. The aura around her fluctuated as if she wanted to really solidify the hall. The energy of heaven and earth seemed to have become still. The ancient heaven sect has interfered. Jimo's spatial teleportation has been severely damaged. I'm afraid that Du Xiaofu has died in the spatial crack. The chances of him surviving are too small. The lightning figure spoke. A strange light spread out from his body. The surrounding lightning flashed like silver snakes. His voice was dignified and indifferent. He was the one who had struck Jimo's spatial teleportation at the very end. From what I know, Jimo is not an ordinary person. Compared to his strength, his wisdom is even more terrifying. He risked his life to send that Du Xiaofu away. Why would he be sent to the ancient heaven sect of the central region? A faint voice was heard. On the seat in the middle of the main hall, a handsome young man slowly stood up. His face looked as if it was sculpted. The playful smile on his face revealed a hint of devilish evil. The devilish young man stood up and walked out of the main hall. His voice slowly echoed in the hall. There is no need to search in the central region. What we want is not a chance. That Du Xiaofu will not die so easily. The 3,000 vibrating lightning on Du Xiaofu's body tells me that Du Xiaofu is not dead yet. He will appear sooner or later. You all should search for the remaining spirit lightning. Yes, Lord Moksha. Hearing this, the lightning old man, the lightning figure, and the others stood up and respectfully replied. Xinguang, I will leave the spirit region to you. Pay attention to any news about that Du Xiaofu. The beautiful woman said to Xinguang Tianzuan. Then, the figure with the thunder light, the thunder old man, and the others disappeared from the hall with the movement of the thunder light. Thank you, Lord Messenger. Looking at the beautiful woman and the lightning figure that disappeared, Shanguang Heavenly Sovereign said happily. However, a faint trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. It has been so long. Where is that item in Sky Martial Academy? If I can obtain that item from Sky Martial Academy, I will not be under your control. Shanguang Heavenly Sovereign muttered softly. In a daze, Du Xiaofu was in a deep sleep and had lost consciousness. When a trace of consciousness woke up, Du Xiaofu tried to control his body. However, he realized that he could not control his body. With only a trace of consciousness waking up, Du Xiaofu could not even feel pain. This person is not old. However, he has a few Chinkuan bags on him. He should not be from an ordinary family. Although he is injured to the point where only his bones are visible and almost shattered, this body is the strangest body this old servant has seen in my life. It can actually recover by itself. An old voice drifted into Du Xiaofu's ears in a daze. Today's third watch period has ended. Little Yu's public WeChat account is YF. Welcome brothers and sisters to join us. If you have any questions about the book, including the time of the update, Little Yu will frequently reply and inform you on this account. Chapter 1136. Uncle Lon, you must heal him. Saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. A woman's voice sounded. The voice was mellow and pleasant to listen to, like water and a song. It was extremely comfortable to listen to, like a cool breeze blowing past. Don't worry, Mississippi. He's already healing himself. We've already given him all our pills. If nothing unexpected happens, he should have no problem keeping himself alive. The old voice continued. That's good. Little Juan, take good care of him. The mellow voice continued. Miss, I'm afraid you'll be in a lot of trouble when you go back this time. You may be in danger at every step. You should think about yourself first. Sigh. The voice was crisp and clear, like an oriole flying out of a valley. Judging from the voice, it should be a young girl. Du Xiaofu listened to these voices vaguely. As time passed, he gradually felt his consciousness recovering more and more. He also gradually regained control of his body. There seemed to be a weak force in his body helping him recover. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu also felt pain surging through his body. It was as if his entire body had fallen apart. However, At least this proved that he had not died in the collapse of the space and was still alive. As time passed, Du Xiaofu felt as if he was in a carriage. A pleasant fragrance filled the air. It should be a woman's carriage. There were a few people taking care of him. Pain. His body was in excruciating pain. It was as if he had been torn apart by 5 horses. He could not gather his Xian-qi at all. He could only rely on his physical body to recover. Under this perception, Du Xiaofu felt as if a few more days had passed. Only then did he begin to feel that the Xian-qi in his body could allow him to move a little. After his eyelids twitched a few times, his eyes opened slightly. A blurry line of sight appeared in his eyes and gradually became clear. What entered Du Xiaofu's eyes was a carriage. It could not be considered luxurious. In fact, it was not luxurious at all. However, there was a kind of elegance to it. Outside the carriage, there was a whistling airflow. The space trembled continuously. He could faintly feel the aura of the beast race pervading the air. Du Xiaofu judged with his consciousness. At this moment, it seemed that there was a flying mount pulling the carriage in mid-air. He looked at the top of the carriage. There was no aura of Little Star around. Du Xiaofu recalled everything, the collapse of the space, Little Star's whereabouts. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. Little Star. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. The Divine Pivot Hall, Master, Weapon, being captured. 3rd Senior Alchemy, Master Self-Detonation. 5th Uncle Jima, Ministers, Quang, and his 7th uncles, Elder Quang Zun. Devil Religion, the Divine Light Court. Du Xiaofu's throat was boiling hot, and his heart was in pain, but he couldn't make a sound. The qi and blood in his body surged, and he spat out a mouthful of pale golden blood. Then, his consciousness, which had just woken up, fell into a deep sleep again. Miss He is Mississippi, Little Lawn, S's, Lee, Do, Do's. The carriage was the inside. Was the carriage? Du Xiaofu was lying on the ground. 3 figures surrounded him. One of them was an old man in a blue robe. His hair was white and his body was slightly hunched. On his aged face, his eyes were not turbid at all. Instead, they were extremely clear. An 18 or 19-year-old girl with delicate features and watery eyes gave off a sense of cleverness. She stared closely at Du Xiaofu, who was lying in the carriage, and said, "Miss, this guy has fainted again." The blue-robed old man squatted down and checked Du Xiaofu's body. Then, he got up and said, "There's nothing wrong with him. It's just that his qi and blood have attacked his heart. It's a miracle that he's not dead. It's a miracle that he can wake up so quickly. He's not fated to die. It's good that there's nothing wrong with him." A girl spoke. Her voice was sweet and pleasant, like water and a song. She was about the same age as the delicate girl. She was only 18 or 19 years old. She had beautiful eyebrows, phoenix eyes, jade cheeks, and cherry lips. She was a beautiful woman. "Miss, we'll be at Tianquan City in a few days. Aren't you worried? It'll be dangerous then," the delicate girl said to the beautiful girl. Her watery eyes were dignified. Her small lips were slightly pouted, making her look extremely beautiful. The beautiful girl was silent for a while. She lowered her eyes, but her eyes were bright. Her eyebrows were slender, her nose was straight, and her cheeks were slightly dimpled. A ray of sunlight reflected from outside the carriage and shone on her delicate face. It made her skin look even more beautiful, like jade. "Little Juan, let's not think too much. After all, Father is the one who's bringing us back this time." After a moment of silence, the girl flicked her sleeves. The girl's delicate hands were as white as jade. Then, she left the carriage and said, "Let that mister rest well. When we reach Tianquan City, put him down first." "Yes, Mississippi," the girl called. Little Juan looked at the back of the beautiful girl and sighed helplessly. The blue-robed old man didn't say anything. He also left the carriage with his back slightly hunched. Only Du Xiaofu was left in the carriage. While his consciousness was sleeping, Du Xiaofu's body was faintly emitting a faint golden light. That was his body recovering on its own. This time, Du Xiaofu didn't sleep for long before his consciousness woke up again. His eyelashes moved slightly, and his eyes opened. There was a faint layer of moonlight shrouding him. It was dark all around. Roar. The carriage didn't move, as if it had stopped somewhere. He could faintly hear the roars of beasts coming from the distance. From this, Du Xiaofu deduced that the carriage should have stopped on a mountain peak. You're finally awake. You're not dead even after that. You're really lucky. A clear voice, like an oriole flying out of a valley, sounded. Du Xiaofu seemed to have heard this voice before in his days. Then, an 18 or 19-year-old girl appeared before his eyes. Her eyes were watery and very beautiful. Where am I? Why am I here? Du Xiaofu asked. His breath was weak, and his voice seemed to come from his throat. The beautiful girl had to listen carefully to hear him clearly. We're on the way to Tianquan City. We were resting at night, and we saved you on the way. At that time, you were covered in blood, and your injuries were so severe that even your bones could be seen. A few beasts surrounded you from afar, as if they wanted to eat you, but they didn't dare to come close. Our mist saved you, and even let you lie in the carriage. It's been half a month. The elegant lady stared at Du Xiaofu as her lips curled up slightly, as if she was unhappy. You're lucky to have met someone as kind-hearted as our young Mississippi. If not, you would have been eaten by demonic beasts long ago. Was there a little girl beside me at that time? Hearing this, Du Xiaofu was anxious and immediately asked. No, you were alone at that time. There was no little girl. The beautiful girl shook her head and confirmed that there was no little girl around at that time. Little Xing Xing. Du Xiaofu was worried. The collapse of space was too dangerous, and he hoped that little Xing Xing would be able to avoid it. Little Xing Xing had the black tortoise divine shell, and its defense wouldn't be any weaker than his. This made Du Xiaofu feel a little more relaxed. When he regained consciousness, he felt a slight pain in his head. Memories came flooding back. Imperial Pivot Hall was destroyed. Master was captured. Third Martial Uncle self-destructed. Great Martial Uncle, Fifth Martial Uncle, and Seventh Martial Uncle died, and Elder Zhu Shou, Elder Cui Fu, and many other elders died. Back in Tianwu Academy, Vice Principal Zhuge died, and the corpses of countless elders, seniors, and juniors were strewn everywhere. All of this was done by the Divine Light Court, and also by the Devil Religion. Tianwu Academy and the Seven-Star Hall were both his homes to Du Xiaofu. Other than the Du family in Stone City, they were the only places that he cared about and warmed his heart. Now, he had yet to take revenge for Tianwu Academy, and the Seven-Star Hall was massacred. I hate. Du Xiaofu bit his lips, and his heart was filled with grief. He hated the Devil Religion, the Divine Light Court, and hated himself for not being strong enough. What number one of the younger generation? What Demon King? I'm like a stray dog now, haha. Du Xiaofu laughed bitterly in his heart. He was filled with grief, and the heart-wrenching pain sealed the blood in his body. He bit his lips so hard that they bled, and his eyes turned red. In the carriage, the beautiful lady glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, You're so rude. We saved you and ate so many of our pills. It's fine if you don't thank us, but why are you so silent? Little Wan, is this young master awake? A pleasant voice sounded, and a beautiful lady walked into the carriage. Her hair was tied with a light yellow ribbon, and her black hair hung down to her waist. Her brows were like a painting, and her lips were like cherry blossoms. She looked gentle and delicate. The girl wore an emerald green dress. At this moment, under the faint moonlight outside the carriage, it appeared especially dazzling and fresh. It was like the moon reflecting on a green lotus, and the mist was thin. It was indescribably ethereal and elegant. Young mistress, there seems to be something wrong with this fellow. When little Wan saw the arrival of the young mistress, she immediately went to the lady's side and kept glancing at Du Xiaofu. The lady looked at Du Xiaofu, and her eyes were like limpid autumn waters. She squatted slightly, and a faint fragrance from her body entered Du Xiaofu's nose. Her jade-like hand took out a silk handkerchief and gently wiped away the faint golden blood at the corner of Du Xiaofu's mouth. Du Xiaofu was in a daze. At this moment, the memories in his mind surged, and he felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. The pain in his heart was unbearable. Young master, you should rest well. Your injuries are very serious, but it's fortunate that you're still alive. As long as you're alive, everything in this world can be redone. except for your own life. Chapter 11:37. The beautiful young lady whispered into Du Xiaofu's ear. She then stood up and smiled at Lil Wan. This young master has just woken up, so he definitely doesn't have the energy to speak. Let him rest. Let's go out first and not disturb him. Yes, Mississippi. This fellow is lucky to have met such a kind-hearted person like you. Lil Wan nodded and muttered to herself as she followed the beautiful young lady out of the carriage. Du Xiaofu's eyes were crimson red. The bright moon shone outside the carriage, and the deep roars of beasts could be heard from time to time. That's right. As long as I'm still alive, there's nothing I can't do again. After a while, Du Xiaofu's tightly clenched teeth relaxed a little and his crimson eyes calmed down. However, an extremely ruthless coldness flashed through his eyes. The voice that came from his throat was bone-chilling as he said, however, the fate of Tianwu Academy and the Seven-Star Hall cannot be reborn. One day, someone will have to pay the price. A debt of blood must be repaid with blood. A moment later, Du Xiaofu calmed down and started to examine everything that was happening to his body. Using his consciousness, he realized that he had really escaped death this time. His body was riddled with wounds, and there was almost no one unscathed. His physical body might have been completely destroyed, but in the end, it did not completely separate. At this moment, his physical body was gradually recovering on its own. This recovery was definitely related to the benefits brought about by the purple gold profound lightning in the purple lightning profound cauldron. If it weren't for the purple gold Shin bomb in the purple lightning Shin cauldron, Du Xiaofu guessed that he wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity even if he had the conjoined body technique of the golden-winged great rock and reached the peak of the bone cleansing and marrow cleansing stage. Du Xiaofu, who was in his Naiwan palace, was not greatly affected by the spatial collapse. The destructive force of the spatial collapse mostly affected the physical body and had little effect on the primordial spirit. Outside the Naiwan palace, the 3,000 Thunder Soul Seeds were still quietly sitting there without any movement. This made Du Xiaofu's heart hurt again. His master, the revered artifact, had fallen into the hands of the devil religion. He didn't know what would happen to him. However, the 3,000 Thunder Soul Seeds didn't show any signs of activity, which meant that they had an owner. This proved that his master, the venerable weapon master, was still alive. Master, disciple swears that I will rescue you as soon as possible and wipe out the devil religion. Du Xiaofu muttered in his heart as he secretly made up his mind to work hard to increase his strength. Phew, after a long time, Du Xiaofu finally managed to control his body, which was barely under his control, to sit cross-legged. Only then did he realize that the purple robe he was wearing had disappeared. It must have been torn to pieces by the collapse of the space. At this moment, he had changed into a pale yellow robe. The color was a little dark, as if it was worn by an elderly person. The style also looked like a servant's attire. Du Xiaofu, on the other hand, didn't care about these things. These clothes were probably given to him by the person who had saved him. He had to find an opportunity to thank the person properly. Phew, following his throat, a mouthful of turbid air was exhaled from Du Xiaofu's throat. His body had almost collapsed inch by inch. At this moment, there were still traces of distortion and fracture. This kind of injury was absolutely terrible. If it weren't for the body forging in the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron, which had broken and then rebuilt, it would be difficult for him to escape death this time. The Chinkuan bags on his body were still in his arms. Not a single one was missing. This allowed Du Xiaofu to judge in his heart that if these people who had saved him didn't care about his Chinkuan bags, then they were absolutely kind-hearted. I have to recover as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu tried several times and found that the Xin Qi in his body was scattered and his primordial spirit was weak. He couldn't even open his Chinkuan bags. His current state was extremely unfavorable. He was afraid that if he encountered trouble, he would only be at the mercy of others. Profound meaning of stars. In the end, Du Xiaofu could only give up on the idea of opening his Chinkuan bags to take out pills and elixirs to help him recover. He thought of the profound meaning of stars. He formed a hand seal and tried to communicate with the profound meaning of stars, hoping to use the power of stars to help him recover. After a while, Du Xiaofu finally channeled the profound meaning of stars on the surface of his body. A layer of starlight appeared and invisibly spread out from the carriage. It slowly spread out, as if the night clouds were parting, and slowly soared into the sky. Whoosh! After a while, the sky above this mountain range rippled. The stars in the sky began to flicker constantly, as if they were being pulled by something. Many stars even seemed to be about to fall, releasing flickering rays of light as they gradually fell from the sky. Rays of light gathered in the sky to form multicolored rays of light, directly descending on this mountain range. The dazzling starlight illuminated the area. The radiance of the stars contained an extremely dense energy. What's going on? It's so beautiful. On the mountain peak, Lil Wan, who was sitting cross-legged, opened her eyes. She felt the energy fluctuations of heaven and earth around her. Looking at the multicolored starlight that was enveloping her, she felt as if she was in a dream. The beautiful girl and the old man who was sitting cross-legged also opened their eyes at this moment. Looking at the changes in the sky around them, their eyes were filled with astonishment. On the mountain peak, there were hundreds of figures in military armor at this moment. They also opened their eyes amidst this strange phenomenon. They were extremely surprised. Above the sky, rays of starlight continued to fall from the sky, continuously gathering in the sky above this mountain range. The multicolored starlight was like a river of stars falling, bright and dazzling. The energy of the starlight also became more and more vigorous. It was as if the energy in this part of the world had been forcefully drawn and devoured. The energy contained in the starlight is beneficial for cultivation. This is an opportunity from the heavens. Someone discovered that the starlight falling from the sky had great benefits for cultivation. Immediately, he sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the starlight. He did not want to miss this opportunity. After someone discovered the benefits of the starlight, many people began to absorb it, scrambling to be the first to do so. Little Jia, what's going on? Little Wan looked at the sky in confusion. The starlight that filled the sky fell on this mountain peak. The dazzling light scattered on the mountain peak like a rain of light. Everything was like a dream, causing people to be amazed. The beautiful girl stood up and looked around. In the end, her puzzled gaze landed on the carriage on the mountain peak not far away. The dreamlike starlight shone and filled the air. Vigorous energy rippled, but the center of it all was inside the carriage. At this moment, there was only one person inside the carriage. Could it be caused by him? The beautiful girl murmured softly, her eyes fluctuating slightly. Miss, we will enter Tianquan City in a few days. That young man has already awakened. He should be fine now. Why don't we put him down tomorrow? The blue-robed old man's back was slightly bowed. His clear eyes were also looking at the carriage at this moment. Uncle Lon, let's talk about it tomorrow morning. Everyone is tired from the journey. Have a good rest. The beautiful girl said to the old man with a smile. Then, she sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the energy of the starlight around her. The starlight was gorgeous, and the energy made people feel comfortable and clear. The blue-robed old man didn't say anything else. He looked at the carriage for a while, then sat down cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. The carriage was wrapped in starlight. Du Xiaofu's entire body was wrapped in dazzling starlight. The dreamlike starlight around him surged like a tide. It was clearly an invisible starlight, but at this moment, it surrounded Du Xiaofu. It was as if Du Xiaofu was in a lake. There were obvious waves, accompanied by vigorous energy fluctuations. The starlight entered his body along with the energy. Du Xiaofu could feel his physical body recovering at an accelerated rate. The starlight energy surged into his body, nourishing and recovering his physical body. It was hard and soft with the body of the golden-winged rock, as if they could complement each other. The starlight energy could also purify his spiritual altar. His physical body was slowly recovering. Du Xiaofu had a freakish physical body to begin with. At this rate of recovery, it was only a matter of time before he fully recovered. However, with his injuries this time being so serious, Du Xiaofu knew that he wouldn't be able to fully recover in a short period of time. It would probably take a long time. The next morning, the first light of dawn appeared. The hazy mountain in the distance was shrouded in a thin veil. Shadows were faintly discernible in the misty clouds, sometimes far, sometimes near, sometimes distant, sometimes distant. It was like a few strokes of ink on the blue horizon. On the mountain peak, the dreamlike mysteries of the stars gradually dissipated until they completely disappeared. The last star in the sky also disappeared into the morning glow. Huff, huff. On the mountain peak, many people woke up. They breathed out turbid air, feeling refreshed. From the energy of the star's splendor, everyone had gained a lot of benefits. They were all smiling. Huff, Du Xiaofu breathed out a mouthful of turbid air. Inside the carriage, he opened his eyes. His eyes were twinkling with starlight. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's face was still deathly pale, without much color. But compared to his previous situation, it was naturally much better. After a night of meditation, coupled with the effects of the star ultimacy, Du Xiaofu was currently peering into his body. He had already recovered quite a bit. At least, he could now summon a trace of his Xian Qi. The strength of his primordial spirit had also recovered quite a bit. However, he was still extremely weak. I'm still too weak. Du Xiaofu frowned. Right now, he was still too weak. He didn't even know where he was. If he were to meet an enemy, any one of them would be able to kill him. This was an extremely bad situation. Chapter 11:38. I must recover as soon as possible, Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. Right now, he couldn't even activate his defensive techniques. As long as he could activate the ancient desolate space or the purple thunder profound cauldron, he would be able to protect himself. I wonder how little Xingxing is doing. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but worry about little Xingxing. He didn't know if little Xingxing could survive or where little Xingxing was at the moment. Although little Xingxing was the descendant of a true dragon, he was still a child. After I recover, I'll go find little Xingxing first, Du Xiaofu pondered. The most important thing now was to recover himself. Are you awake? Just as Du Xiaofu was thinking about this, an 18 or 19-year-old girl walked in from the door. Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed as he looked at the girl. It was the girl he had talked to yesterday. Her name seemed to be Lil Wan. Yes, thank you for saving me. Du Xiaofu nodded. At this moment, he could already see the girl's cultivation. She was at the peak of the pulse spirit realm. In the eyes of ordinary people, such a cultivation at such a young age was already extremely extraordinary. However, in Du Xiaofu's eyes, it was nothing. It was our miss who saved you. Otherwise, you would have been dead. You would have been eaten by a demon beast. Lil Wan looked at Du Xiaofu with a puzzled expression and said, How did you know to say thank you today? I thought you became stupid from your injuries. Sir, are you awake? A gentle and moving voice slowly sounded. Another girl walked in. The beautiful figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. He had seen her yesterday. It was the beautiful girl. At this moment, Du Xiaofu seriously sized up the girl. Her eyebrows were like ink, her lips were like cherry blossoms, and her eyes were like autumn water. She was gentle and delicate. Her hair was tied with a light yellow ribbon, and her black hair fell to her waist. Her slim waist was small, and her temperament was ethereal. Peak of the 6-star talisman master. Du Xiaofu didn't need to pry into the girl's cultivation. She was a peak of the 6-star talisman master. With this young girl's age and cultivation aura, she was already not weak. This proved that her talent was already extraordinary. Thank you for saving me. Du Xiaofu looked at the woman and nodded with a smile. He wanted to get up, but found that it was still a little difficult. It was as if his body had been torn apart. Although his body was strong, he still felt the tearing pain sweep over him. Young master, please sit down. Your injuries are too severe. It's already a miracle that you're still alive. We were just passing by to save you. The young girl spoke. Her jade-white hands pressed down on Du Xiaofu's seat, and a faint fragrance wafted out from her body. Although this young lady's appearance could not be compared to Qi Shi, Dongli Qingqing, Ouyang Shuang, Zhu Shui, and Sima Muhan, she was already extremely moving. She was very beautiful, and her temperament carried an unforgettable gentleness. Young miss, who said it was a simple matter. You've been eating and sleeping in the open for half a month. You even let this guy sleep in the carriage. You've also given all the pills you have on you to him. Those are worth a lot. Lil Wan interrupted from the side, pouting. This young miss of her family was too kind-hearted. That was why she was bullied by those people at home and ended up in such a state. This time, if it wasn't for the family competition and the demons wreaking havoc there, she probably wouldn't have had the chance to go back. Lil Wan, those are worldly possessions. Don't be so rude. You'll make a fool of yourself. The girl glared at Lil Wan, but she wasn't angry. From the look in her eyes, the relationship between the two should not be shallow. She then smiled at Du Xiaofu and said, Lil Wan speaks without thinking, but she doesn't have any bad intentions. Young master, please forgive her. Young miss, you're too polite. Du Xiaofu naturally could see that Lil Wan didn't have any bad intentions. These days, that girl seemed to have taken care of him quite a bit. Du Xiaofu's eyes secretly flickered. He smiled and asked the girl, May I know your name and where you live? I'll definitely repay you for saving my life in the future. Du Xiaofu wanted to thank this girl for saving his life, but in the current situation, it wasn't convenient for him to take out any treasures. If someone were to be tempted by the treasures, he wouldn't be able to deal with them in his current state. Although this was a bit like gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain, the human heart was unpredictable. One must always guard against others. Du Xiaofu could only do so. He thought that when his injuries were better, he would personally pay her a visit to thank her. Young master is too polite. It's not a big deal. It's really not worth mentioning. The girl's red lips parted slightly. Then, an unfathomable light fell from her eyes. She said to Du Xiaofu, My name is Ji Jian. I'm from the Ji family in Tianquan City. Tianquan City? Du Xiaofu thought of Tianquan City. There didn't seem to be such a place in the Central Plains. Don't tell me you don't even know about the Ji family in Tianquan City? Our young mistress is the 5th young mistress of the Ji family. The Ji family dynasty has a total of 7 empires. Even in the entire Shang province, they are quite famous. Lil Wan looked at Du Xiaofu's confused appearance and said somewhat proudly, The Ji family in Tianquan City was a powerful force. They were quite famous in the entire Shang province. This is the Shang province. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he immediately frowned. So he was actually in the Shang province. He didn't know how far away it was from the Central Plains. I don't know young master's name. Could it be that young master isn't from the Shang province? Ji Jian asked Du Xiaofu curiously. Young master's injuries are so serious. Did you meet some enemies along the way? My name is... Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and suddenly remembered his situation. Back in the Tianhuang continent, his name had probably spread throughout the Shang province. My name is Fu Dabai, and I'm from a small place in the Shang province. I originally wanted to come out and see the world, but I met many monsters along the way. Thank you for saving me. Du Xiaofu said. Since Fu Ibai wanted to call him Big Brother, he casually came up with the name Fu Dabai. Back then, it was probably not safe to use the name Xiaofeng to avoid attracting attention. Lil Wan glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, So you're from a small place. No wonder you don't know about the Ji family in Tianquan City. Count yourself lucky this time. I'm afraid you won't be able to pay back all the pills you used. However, it's better to be alive than dead. Don't wander around recklessly in the future. The outside world is filled with danger, and it's not a place you can wander around. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Miss Lil Wan is right. I'll remember that. Du Xiaofu nodded. Lil Wan's words were indeed correct, causing him to have a feeling of speechlessness. Now that they were already in the Shang province, Du Xiaofu could only accept it after a brief moment of absent-mindedness. Everything would have to be arranged after he recovered. Moreover, the people of the devil religion in the Divine Light Court must be searching for him everywhere. Now that he was in the Shang province, he should be much safer. Young Master Fu, you should continue recuperating. It should take a few more days to reach Tianquan City. We can part ways outside Tianquan City. During these few days, you can focus on recuperating. Ji Jian looked at the absent-minded Du Xiaofu and said in a gentle and moving voice, This, Du Xiaofu smiled. Now that he had regained consciousness, if he were to follow them to recuperate, he would probably cause some commotion and make others feel surprised. Suddenly, just as Du Xiaofu was hesitating, A sound transmission sounded in Du Xiaofu's ears. Young man, I don't care where you came from, and I don't care who hurt you, but your plans can only fool my young miss. You can't fool this old man's eyes. The blood on your body is light gold, like the blood of beasts, but you're not one of them. You shouldn't be weak, and your injuries can't be caused by a demonic beast. No matter what enemies you have, my young mistress has saved you. And now that you've regained consciousness, please leave. We already have a lot of trouble, so don't bring any more trouble to us. Otherwise, even if my young mistress wants to save you, it won't be difficult for me to secretly act against you. Even if you're strong in your current state, I'm afraid you won't be able to withstand a single blow. The sound transmission fell in Du Xiaofu's ears and then disappeared. Du Xiaofu knew who this sound transmission came from and looked outside the carriage. At this moment, outside the carriage, a blue-robed old man was pulling a few ropes, and a huge flying demonic beast at the peak of the pulse spirit realm was flapping its wings slightly. The old man was controlling the carriage, and then he said to Ji Jian, who was inside the carriage, "Young mistress, it's time for us to leave." Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows slightly, looked at Ji Jian, and said, "Miss Jian, I'm fine now, so I won't disturb you. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely pay you a visit. Thank you for saving my life." "You're not coming with us?" Ji Jian looked at Du Xiaofu in surprise and said, "Your injuries are still very serious, and it'll be very dangerous for you to stay here alone. Come with us." "I'm fine now. The journey isn't good for my recovery, so I'll take my leave." Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and struggled to get up. "If young Master Fu insists, then I won't force you to stay." Ji Jian stretched out her hand to help Du Xiaofu up. The two of them stood very close to each other, and there was a trace of shyness on her face. "Just call me Fu to buy." Du Xiaofu smiled. Only after he recovered could he go to Tianquan City to repay this life-saving grace. "You should be older than me, so why don't I call you Big Brother Bai?" Ji Jian smiled. "Up to you. Don't be too polite." Du Xiaofu smiled, looking at the innocent girl in front of him. Her talent was not bad, but she was a little too innocent. Chapter 11:39. Humph. My miss is the G clan's 5th Mississippi. Calling you brother makes it sound like she's taking advantage of you. Lil Wan rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. "Big brother Dabai, if you don't want to come with us, then keep these pills. I only have so many on me. They'll help you recover faster." Ji Jian took out a medicine bottle. There were energy waves inside, so there should be some healing pills inside. "Miss Jian, you should keep these pills for yourself. My injuries are no longer a problem." Du Xiaofu refused. Du Xiaofu could see that there were several king-grade pills in the bottle, and the rest were marquis-grade pills. They wouldn't be of much use to his injuries. Compared to the spirit herbs and pills in his storage ring, the difference was like heaven and earth. "Miss, he doesn't need them. You should keep them. He's already taken many of our pills. Once we reach Tianquan City, our environment won't be much better." Lil Wan immediately said to Ji Jian when she saw this, "Big brother Xiaobai, if you don't accept them, then I'll have to take you with me. Otherwise, I won't be at ease. You don't need these pills." Ji Jian ignored Lil Wan and forced the medicine bottle into Du Xiaofu's hands. This girl. Du Xiaofu was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly. "Big brother Xiaobai, take care. If you have the chance, come find me at Tianquan City's G-Clan. If I can still be at the G-Clan then." A moment later, on the mountain peak, on the flying beast carriage, Ji Jian waved at Du Xiaofu. Thinking of returning to the G-Clan, her brows furrowed slightly. Whoosh whoosh. On the mountain peak, hundreds of soldiers dressed in military armor leaped onto the other 3 flying beasts, as if they were escorting Ji Jian. No one paid any attention to Du Xiaofu, who was currently dressed in servant's attire and covered in wounds. Hula. The group of people disappeared in mid-air. Du Xiaofu looked up at the sky, then at the medicine bottle in his hand. He smiled and murmured, "What a naive girl. If I have the chance in the future, I will definitely repay her 100-fold." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu scanned his surroundings. This mountain range was desolate and uninhabited. There were only wild beasts and no demonic beasts. It was an ideal place to recuperate. Half an hour later, Du Xiaofu didn't set up any seals or restrictions in a hidden crack in the valley, so as to avoid exposing his whereabouts. Summoning the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron, Du Xiaofu entered the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron to hide. Then, he entered the ancient desolate space. In the misty space, Du Xiaofu was finally able to open the Qinkuan bag. He took out a lot of elixirs and high-grade elixirs and stuffed them directly into his mouth. Then, he sat cross-legged and began to use the Golden Wing Rock technique to heal himself. A moment later, a golden light rippled and Du Xiaofu's body was shrouded in golden light. The faint golden light enveloped Du Xiaofu's body. It contained mysterious runes, and a domineering aura spread out. In the calm sky, flying demonic beasts flapped their wings and whistled through the air. "Miss, you are too generous. You even gave Fu to buy so many elixirs, and he didn't seem to appreciate it. You are too kind. That's why you were bullied to this extent by 4th Miss and 3rd Mississippi in the carriage." Lil Wan pouted her pink lips. She was still heartbroken over the elixirs given by Lin Fan. Elixirs are just worldly possessions. Anyway, we don't need those healing elixirs. Ji Jian smiled. Her smile was extremely charming. That guy came from a small place. Miss was willing to bring him along, but he was unwilling. He really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. He said that he would visit us to thank us for saving his life. I'm afraid it's just empty words. Lil Wan muttered and said, but that guy is really lucky. He was able to survive such heavy injuries. His recovery seems to be very fast. Ji Jian's red lips parted slightly. There was some doubt in her eyes. After a moment, she said softly, I feel that Big Brother Dabai is not an ordinary person. He is not an ordinary person. Could it be that he is an ordinary person? Lil Wan raised her head and looked at Ji Jian. She said, in any case, I don't see how he is different. I can't explain it clearly either, but I can feel that Big Brother Dabai is not an ordinary person. Ji Jian said softly. A smile appeared on her lips. It was a moving arc. 3 days later, in the desolate ancient space. In the misty space, the surrounding space rippled. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. Golden light spread around his body. Mysterious runes flickered. From afar, it was as if a golden-winged rock was circling behind him. Its domineering aura was enough to make all beasts prostrate. 3 days in the outside world was 1 month in the desolate ancient space. In a month's time, Du Xiaofu's skin had a purplish-gold color. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body, which was originally distorted and in tatters, had more or less recovered. His body once again became crystal clear. If anyone were to see such a frightening recovery speed, they would probably be astonished to the point of astonishment. Du Xiaofu's physical body was simply too strong. Back then, when he was refining the golden feathers in the first level of the golden-winged rock's body tempering technique, Du Xiaofu had coincidentally cultivated to the true rock realm, which even a true golden-winged rock would find difficult to reach. After that, his body tempering technique reached the late stage of bone washing and marrow cleansing. He also received starlight to temper his body. He had broken through the purplish-gold Xian lightning and reforged his body. It could be said that in terms of physical strength, Du Xiaofu had yet to meet a true opponent. Even the Dragon 9 of the dragons back then was slightly inferior. The benefits of a strong physical body in actual combat were astonishing. There was no doubt that his combat strength had increased tremendously. It was not something that could be compared to someone of the same cultivation level. Along the way, every time Du Xiaofu killed an opponent above his level, most of it was by relying on his tyrannical physical body. Golden light flickered. Du Xiaofu's black hair seemed to be filled with golden runes. He was like a god, domineering and intimidating, yet ancient and mysterious. The large amount of elixirs and high-grade spiritual herbs in his body turned into energy. Under the circulation of the golden-winged rock's cultivation technique, it nourished and restored his physical body. It could also strengthen his Xian Qi. Only when all the elixirs and spiritual herbs in his body had been devoured did Du Xiaofu's aura slowly converge. Bright golden light began to enter his body. Huff! When the last strand of golden light converged, Du Xiaofu exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His tightly shut eyes opened. A golden light accompanied by faint lightning burst out from his eyes. Boom! A domineering aura suddenly swept out from Du Xiaofu's body. The aura shook the entire ancient, desolate space. After a month of recuperation in the ancient, desolate space, Du Xiaofu was no longer in danger. I've recovered about 70 to 80%. I should think of a way to find little Xingxing first. Du Xiaofu inspected his body. He had recovered about 70 to 80%. He was worried about little Xingxing. After packing up, Du Xiaofu exited the ancient desolate space in the purple thunder profound cauldron. He then left the mountain range. Du Xiaofu floated in mid-air. He did not know where to search. Back then, Ji Jian and Shaowan had saved him. With Ji Jian's and the hunchbacked elder's cultivation, they would not have missed little Xingxing if he was nearby. Hence, it would not be of much use even if he went back to search. I'll go to Tianquan City to find out more information. I'll also make a trip to the Ji clan. Du Xiaofu made a decision in his heart. Profound qi surged out from the soles of his feet. His figure immediately flew in the direction that Ji Jian and the others had left. It was as if he had torn apart space. In a flash, he disappeared into the vast sky. The vast mountain range was covered in clouds and mist. It was majestic and continuous. Along the way, other than a few rare flying demonic beast mounts, Du Xiaofu did not meet anyone else for a long time. The energy of heaven and earth in the surrounding mountain range was not dense. Du Xiaofu did not even detect the aura of demonic beasts. There's the smell of blood. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in a mountain range. His figure stopped, and the smell of blood permeated the air. This smell of blood could not escape Du Xiaofu's senses. It was quite dense. There was definitely more than one person fighting. Du Xiaofu's brows twitched. He hesitated for a moment, then his figure disappeared. Whoosh! When Du Xiaofu's figure reappeared, he was already in a messy canyon. Hundreds of corpses lay on the ground around the canyon. They were all people in military armor. There were also 3 flying demonic beast corpses. The secret bones were dug out, and the corpses were thrown to the side. It's really them. Du Xiaofu's gaze changed slightly. Although Du Xiaofu had only seen these people once, he would not forget that they were the people who had escorted Ji Jian. The strength of these hundreds of people was not too high. Only 2 of them were in the martial king realm. However, at this moment, they were all killed in one move. It proved that the attacker's strength was much stronger. Du Xiaofu had just sensed the smell of blood and came here. He was also worried that Ji Jian and the others were in danger. Because this road was deserted, not many people passed by. Only Ji Jian and the others came 3 days ago. Although Du Xiaofu's half-a-day's speed was still slow, it was enough to be faster than their 3-day journey. Calculating the time, Du Xiaofu could not help but be worried. He did not expect that Ji Jian and the others were really in trouble. After checking the surroundings, Du Xiaofu did not see Ji Jian, Lil Wan, or the hunchbacked old man. His eyes rippled, and his mind immediately swept around with him as the center. Chapter 1140. Moments later, Du Xiaofu's eyes glowed with a golden light, and he disappeared from where he stood. The verdant mountains overlapped one another like the waves of the sea, surging and surging, majestic and magnificent. In a canyon, 2 stone walls pressed down like skyscrapers. They were so tall that they looked like they would collapse at any moment. Above the canyon, a thin line could be vaguely seen in the milky white mist. Many figures floated above the stone walls, more than 100 of them. Their auras were extremely powerful, and they reeked of blood. There were also a few ferocious birds flapping their wings, looking ferocious and terrifying. At this moment, 3 figures were surrounded in the middle of the canyon. They were Ji Jian, Lil Wan, and the blue-robed hunchbacked old man. The 3 of them were drenched in blood, especially the hunchbacked old man in blue robes. His aura was chaotic, and his clear eyes were bloodshot. He stared at the leading burly man and said coldly, "Phantasm Emperor, do you know what you're doing? If you dare to touch the 5th daughter of the Ji clan, your nest will be razed to the ground by the Ji clan. Not even a chicken or a dog will be spared. Hunchback, you're already an arrow at the end of its flight, so don't struggle. We're here for the 5th daughter of the Ji clan." This little girl is quite pretty. It's a pity to kill her, but I can have some fun with her first." The burly man in black robes sneered, looking at Ji Jiyin with a perverted smile. He didn't take these three people seriously at all. "Miss, I'll fight them to the death. Hurry up and think of a way to escape. Don't go back to the Ji clan. They won't let you go back," the blue-robed hunchbacked old man said to Ji Jiyin. He stared at the Phantasm Emperor and the others vigilantly, looking for a chance to escape. "Uncle Lon, if we're leaving, we'll leave together," Ji Jiyin said. She wasn't a flower vase. Her cultivation base as a perfected 6-star talisman master was not weak. TSK, since you know you can't go back, why bother? You're quite smart. Unfortunately, it's too late for regrets." The Phantasm Emperor sneered. "Which member of the Ji clan sent you here, Emperor of the Phantasm? You should know that the fifth young lady is a member of the Ji clan after all. If you dare to lay a finger on her, you'll be the one to suffer when the truth is out. I'm afraid the person who sent you here won't protect you." The hunchbacked old man looked at the Phantasm Emperor and said in a deep voice. Then, he glanced around, looking for an opportunity. Upon hearing these words, the Phantasm Emperor went blank briefly. The hunchbacked old man's words struck a chord in his heart. TSK, Hunchback, stop trying to sow discord. If I kill you today, no one will know. No matter what, you will all die today." After a moment of silence, the Phantasm Emperor's gloomy face returned to normal. "Phantasm Emperor, you're the one who was sent here by the Ji clan. I'll give you double the benefits. I'll double the price," Ji Jiyin said in a clear, melodious voice as she stared at the Phantasm Emperor. Looking at Ji Jiyin, the Phantasm Emperor's eyes flickered with a hint of red light. With a cold smile, he said, "Little girl, you're the weakest member of the Ji clan. You can't even protect yourself. What else can you give me? I think your body is the only one I can play with. How dare you?" Upon hearing these words, Ji Jiyin's gentle and quiet temperament instantly turned cold. Her cheeks were icy cold, and her eyes were filled with killing intent. "You look gentle and quiet, but I didn't expect you to be so hot. I like it." With a wicked smile, the Phantasm Emperor stomped his foot in the air, and his body morphed into a bolt of lightning that shot directly towards Ji Jiyin. "Watch out, young lady," the hunchback old man shouted. Runes burst out from his body and covered him with mysterious runes. Finally, they turned into a mottled shadow of a giant demonic tortoise and blocked the Phantasm Emperor's path. "Are you trying to activate your arterial soul? You're just a beginner martial emperor, while I'm at the Nirvana martial emperor realm. If I didn't let you escape on purpose, you wouldn't have been able to escape." The Phantasm Emperor was not afraid. He changed his hand seals, and a dazzling rune appeared on his palm print. As the palm print appeared, the surrounding space suddenly fluctuated, and it hit the old man's arterial soul directly. Bang! The blue-robed old man's arterial soul trembled and shot out dazzling runes. Finally, it cracked and shattered, unable to stop the Phantasm Emperor's power. Puff! The hunchbacked old man, who was already drenched in blood, spat out a mouthful of blood. He staggered back, and every step he took caused the ground to crack. "You're overestimating yourself." With a grim roar, the Phantasm Emperor appeared in front of the hunchbacked old man in blue robes, who was still retreating. Then, he threw another punch at the old man, which was bursting with dazzling light. It shattered the old man's defenses and sent him crashing into the arm on the other side of the valley. Rumble. The earth shook, the stone walls cracked, and large pieces of rubble fell down. Puff! Blood gushed out of the old man's mouth as his body slammed into the crack in the stone wall. Blood dripped from his mouth as he spat out crushed organs. His eyes were fixed on Jian as he stammered, "Miss? Quick! Run quick, Uncle Lon." Ji Jian and Lil Wan's faces paled, rushing towards the blue-robed old man. The two women shattered the surrounding rocks before they managed to move the blue-robed old man's body out. "Young lady, I can't serve you anymore. Run, don't go back to the Ji family. They won't let you enter the Ji family." The blue-robed old man spat out blood again and again, and his aura became weaker and weaker. "Uncle Lon, Don't talk. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Ji Jian burst into tears. Her eyes were wet with tears. To her, Uncle Lon was not her servant. He was her family, and she had always respected him as her father. The Phantasm Emperor stopped and waved his sleeve slightly. He said to a thin, middle-aged man behind him, "Okay, take him back. That little girl is not bad. Take her with you." "Brother, that man from the Ji family has to die." The thin man stepped forward. He was a beginner martial emperor. He looked at the Phantasm Emperor in confusion. With a cold smile, the Phantasm Emperor said, "That hunchback's words reminded me that we can't kill that girl. She's our life-saving talisman. With her in our hands, we'll benefit more and more." "I understand, brother." The thin man nodded and waved at the people behind him. Swoosh! Immediately, several cultivators who had reached the King realm rushed out and pounced on Lil Wan and Ji Jian like lightning. "Miss, let's go." Lil Wan gritted her teeth and pulled out a spiritual longsword. She wanted to stop those terrifying cultivators, but her eyes were filled with despair. She knew that she could not stop those cultivators. "Let's fight them," Ji Jian shouted. Her aura surged and she formed a hand seal. Suddenly, she activated the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron. Ji Jian was already determined to fight to the death. She would rather die than be captured alive by those people. "You're overestimating yourself." As the cold voice fell, several powerful cultivators, accompanied by vigorous and fierce auras, swept up and shrouded Lil Wan and Ji Jian. Just as these fierce auras enveloped Lil Wan and Ji Jian, the space around them suddenly froze. Even the bodies of the Martial King realm cultivators were strangely imprisoned in midair, unable to move at all. At the same time, a blazing aura descended in this canyon. There seemed to be a purple light flashing in the eyes. The heat made people's souls tremble. Bang, bang, bang. In the next moment, the bodies of the Martial King realm cultivators directly exploded in midair, accompanied by purple flames pouring down. In just a short moment, the bodies of the Martial King realm cultivators were turned into ashes. Looking at this scene, Ji Jian, Lil Wan, and the Phantasm Emperor were all shocked. This scene was too strange. The terrifying purple flames appeared out of thin air, making people's souls tremble. Then, they disappeared. The Martial King realm cultivators were killed in an instant. This strange scene made the hundreds of people in the surroundings feel their hair stand on end and a chill run down their spines. The blue-robed, hunchbacked old man was lying on the ground. He struggled to open his eyes and looked at all this. He was also surprised, but then he was overjoyed. Seeing this, Ji Jian came back to her senses. She put away the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron and returned to the side of the blue-robed, hunchbacked old man. She looked above the canyon, as if searching for something. In a short time, the Phantasm Emperor also came back to his senses. He carefully looked around, but found nothing. It did not seem like there were any strong cultivators involved. Chapter 1141. That little girl must have some treasures on her. She is indeed the fifth daughter of the Ji clan. The Emperor of the Phantasm Underworld's eyes burned with passion again. He then said to the skinny man beside him, "Capture that little girl." The skinny man hesitated for a moment. Then, with a fierce look in his eyes, he activated his aura and covered his body with runes. Immediately, he pounced on Ji Jian. Then, not long after the skinny man dashed out, the air froze again, and a purple light seeped out. Bang! Then, the skinny man who had just reached the martial royal realm did not even have time to react before his body exploded. A terrifying hot aura swept through the canyon, turning everything into ashes. "Miss, there is an expert helping us." Seeing this scene again, Lil Wan understood that there was an expert secretly helping them at this moment. "Who are you? Can I meet you?" The Emperor of the Phantasm Underworld looked up at the canyon with fear in his eyes. Even a martial emperor stage beginner couldn't withstand a single blow and was killed before he could even see the person. It was not that the Ji clan girl had any treasures on her, but that there was an expert secretly helping them. The opponent was too powerful. "Who sent you?" Otherwise, you will all die. High up in the sky, a low and hoarse voice rang out, reverberating in the canyon. It was as if it was spreading in everyone's minds, causing their minds to tremble. The hundreds of people in the surroundings were already trembling in fear. Sir, this is the G-Clan's matter. It's not good for you to interfere. The Emperor of the Phantasm Underworld gritted his teeth and looked up at the sky. His expression was grim, and he looked around, but he couldn't find who was interfering. G-Clan, I already know. Then you can all go to hell. The hoarse voice continued. As the voice fell, the canyon suddenly froze, and a purple light flashed. Oh no, run! On both sides of the canyon, the hundreds of people's faces changed drastically. They wanted to escape with all their might, but they found that the space around them had frozen. They couldn't escape at all. A terrifying heat came from their bodies, burning their senses in an instant and sweeping away all the vitality in their bodies. Bang, bang, bang. Like firecrackers, the hundreds of people exploded one after another in an instant, turning into ashes. Purple flames bloomed in the canyon like fireworks, but the aura was destructive. Oh no, that's a super expert. The Emperor of the Phantasm Underworld truly felt fear. He rushed up to the canyon like a bolt of lightning, not daring to stay any longer. Bang! In the next moment, under Lil Wan and Ji Yin's shocked gazes, the Phantasm Emperor's body also exploded in the air above the canyon. The purple flames were even more brilliant than before, but the same thing happened to his body, which was also reduced to ashes. Everything in the surroundings calmed down, and the canyon regained its silence. Coo! After a long time, Lil Wan's throat burned and she swallowed hard. She turned to look at Ji Yin, her eyes unable to remain calm. She whispered, Miss G.'s eyes. Seniors is Nan, the god, is his nice? His voice spread out, but after a moment, the surroundings were silent as usual, and there was no reply. Who on earth helped us? That person is too powerful. Lil Wan's mouth was still agape. She stared blankly at the surroundings. It should be a senior who happened to pass by and helped us. We are lucky, Ji Yin said. Just as she was about to withdraw her gaze, she suddenly seemed to sense something. She squinted her eyes and looked at the front of the canyon. Someone? Lil Wan followed his gaze and saw a figure hurrying over from the front of the canyon. After a while, the figure flew over and landed in front of them. It was a young man in a dark-colored servant's robe. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his face was resolute. Under his dashing eyebrows were a pair of clear eyes. He looked around and seemed to be a little flustered. He asked Ji Yin and Lil Wan, What happened? Are you okay? Fudabai, it's you. Lil Wan looked at the young man. After carefully sizing him up, she finally recognized him. He was Fudabai, the one who had miraculously survived. However, when Lil Wan saw that Fudabai's complexion was no longer deathly pale, and there was even a tinge of red on his cheeks, his temperament was also different from before, and it gave her a special feeling. She asked in surprise, Why are you here? Weren't you recuperating? The young man was naturally Du Xiaofu. In order to avoid trouble, he didn't reveal his strength. He had only acted in secret. I heard the commotion here from afar. I didn't expect it to be you. I also thought that it would be safer if I was with you. Not long after you left, I started chasing after you, but I only just caught up, Du Xiaofu said. His gaze didn't leave any traces. Pooh! Suddenly, the sound of blood coughing rang out. The blue-robed, hunchbacked old man lying on the ground coughed and spat out blood again, along with his broken organs. Uncle Lan. Ji Yin turned around and immediately checked Uncle Lan's injuries. Big White, do you still have any healing pills on you? Quickly give them to Uncle Lan. Lil Wan said anxiously. Previously, they had given all the pills they had to Fudabai. Before Lil Wan could finish her words, Du Xiaofu had already squatted down beside the blue-robed, hunchbacked old man. A pill was stuffed into the old man's mouth. Du Xiaofu's hand seal landed on the old man's body to check his injuries. His expression was serious. Ji Yin was also checking the blue-robed old man's injuries. Her delicate face was serious. She was the clearest about the results of her examination. Her eyes were moist and tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. Miss, I can't take it anymore. Madam entrusted you to me. I can't take care of you anymore. Promise me, don't return to the G family. Those people see you as a thorn in their side. They won't let you return. The blue-robed old man looked at Ji Jian as he spoke. His gaze then turned to Lil Wan beside her. Lil Wan, you have to take good care of Miss in the future. Uncle Lon, you'll be fine. You'll definitely be fine. Lil Wan sobbed. In her panic, she didn't know what to do. And you? The blue-robed old man looked at Du Xiaofu. Blood was still flowing from the corner of his mouth. This old man has a favor to ask of you. Du Xiaofu nodded seriously. Old man, tell me. If I can do it, I definitely won't refuse. Actually, you don't owe us anything. The blue-robed old man seemed to be implying something. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said, but this old man still wants to beg you. Take our miss to a safe place to stay. The further away from the Ji family and Tianquan City, the better. Please, just take it as you owe our miss, Pu. Before he finished speaking, the old man suddenly coughed violently. Large amounts of blood gushed out. His eyes no longer had the strength to open and slowly closed. Uncle Lon, wake up. Uncle Lon. Ji Jian and Lil Wan cried out in pain. They shook the old man, but at this moment, the old man was already dead. He didn't open his eyes again. Don't worry, I promise you, I'll make sure she's safe. Du Xiaofu muttered softly. A wisp of a sigh flashed past his eyes, and he felt a bit of self-blame. If he had been a bit faster, perhaps this loyal servant wouldn't have died. At this moment, his internal organs were shattered, and even his divine watchtower had been blasted apart. There was nothing he could do. Uncle Lon, Ji Jian and Lil Wan sobbed in grief. After a long time, the two women finally calmed down from their grief. Then, under Du Xiaofu's suggestion, the old man was buried on a mountain peak not far away. Looking at the old man's tombstone, Ji Jian's eyes were red as she said softly, Uncle Lon, if there's a chance in the future, I'll give you a proper burial. It's my fault, I've implicated you. The Ji clan that wants to kill you, is it your clan? On the mountain peak, Du Xiaofu asked Ji Jian. It's them. It must be them. They've always seen Miss as a thorn in their side. Lil Wan's eyes were filled with certainty. It must be those people in the clan who saw Miss as a thorn in their side. Speaking of which, it's all about my family. I just didn't expect them to be so vicious and merciless this time. I can't believe they actually bribed the Phantasm Emperor and tried to kill me, and even got Uncle Lon into trouble. Ji Jian said. Her quiet temperament began to show some coldness. Chapter 1142. Subsequently, from Ji Jian and Lil Wan, Du Xiaofu finally understood everything. It turned out that this was inseparable from Ji Jian's identity. The Ji family was a large clan. Just the Ji family dynasty alone controlled 7 empires. The clan's power was immense, and even in the entire Shang province, it was rather famous. Although Ji Jian was the 5th young miss of the Ji family, she did not share the same mother as the previous 4. Instead, she was the child of the Ji family head and a young miss of a small clan. Although she was the 5th young miss of the Ji family, Ji Jian had never been happy since birth. Her mother was already damaged when she was born due to a difficult birth. Since young, she had been bullied by her 4 older siblings and had almost lost her life a few times. Although when she was young, Ji Jian had displayed talent in cultivating talismans, she did not receive any cultivation resources. Instead, she was restricted everywhere. In the end, when Ji Jian was 7 years old, she was sent to her maternal grandmother's house, which was thousands of miles away from Tianquan City. Recently, many places in Shang province were filled with evil spirits. Ji Jian's maternal grandmother's house was also greatly affected. Many nearby places were turned into evil spirits, and her maternal grandmother's house was already preparing to migrate. Coincidentally, it was the Ji family tournament, and all direct descendants of the Ji family were required to participate. Thus, someone from the Ji family went to Ji Jian's maternal grandmother's house and was ordered to let Ji Jian return to Tianquan City. Along the way, they were already feeling uneasy. This time, returning would definitely not be a good thing. There were traps everywhere, and they could not help but worry. Someone doesn't want you to return to participate in the tournament. Could it be that the Ji family tournament is related to benefits? Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. Someone did not want Ji Jian to return. It was likely that the Ji family tournament was related to something. The Ji family tournament is actually a selection of the next generation to be in charge of the Ji family. When the time comes, the winner will be able to obtain the Imperial Dragon Chi of 2 of the 7 empires, and will also be the future head of the Ji family. Lil Wan said to Du Xiaofu, "Those people are afraid that Miss will threaten them and take away their benefits, so they want to stop Miss from going back. What about your father? Does he not care?" Du Xiaofu asked Ji Jian. Family head has never paid any attention to her. Ever since young Miss was born, he has only seen young Miss a few times. This time, if it weren't for the Ji family's rules that all direct bloodline members must return to the Ji family tournament, I'm afraid family head wouldn't have remembered young Mississippi. Lil Wan pouted. Her words contained some resentment towards the Ji clan master. Although she was a servant, she was as close as a sister to the young Miss. She was complaining on behalf of the young Miss. Du Xiaofu was silent as he looked at the tombstone of the blue-robed old man. After a while, he asked Ji Jian, "What do you plan to do now?" "To Tianquan City, to the Ji family." Ji Jian's voice trembled. Then, she looked at the tombstone in front of her, her eyes filled with sadness. "Young Miss, we can't go back. They won't let us go. If we go back, we will be weak, and our strength will be inferior to theirs. It's too dangerous. Uncle Lon also told us not to go back to the Ji family." Lil Wan was stunned. Then, she reminded her young Miss. If they went back to the Ji family now, they would be walking right into a trap. "Lil Wan, if we don't go back, who will pay for Uncle Lan's life? When I was young, they treated me like that. I always thought that maybe things would be better after I grew up. I never planned to fight with them for anything, but now, they are so cruel and merciless. They don't care about family ties and want to kill me. I have the same blood as them, and I even implicated Uncle Lon. They are afraid that I will go back, so I will go back. And that father of mine, is he really so cruel?" Ji Jian's voice became softer and softer. In the end, her words seemed to be saying something, but she stopped. No one knew what she was thinking. From when she was young, no one could hear her. Du Xiaofu looked at Ji Jian and said, "If you go back now, I'm afraid it will not bode well for you. Uncle Lan's last words were for me to send you all away." Ji Jian looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Big brother Dabai, you should leave. This is our Ji family's matter. Don't get involved. Uncle Lon wants me to leave, far away from Tianquan City, far away from the Ji family. He is afraid that I will be hurt, but I cannot leave. I must go back. Someone must pay the price for Uncle Lan's life." Du Xiaofu said, "I'm afraid your strength is not enough." Ji Jian's body trembled slightly. She leaned on the tombstone and slowly took a deep breath. Then, she said, "My strength is not enough. But if I leave like this, I will be living a life in vain in the future. So, I might as well go back. They are afraid of me going back, so they naturally have their reasons to be afraid. As long as I return to the Ji family, they will have some qualms about doing anything. Perhaps I will be safer." "Miss," Lil Wan wanted to say something, but Ji Jian interrupted her and said, "Lil Wan, I have already made up my mind. There is no need to say anything more. You have been by my side all these years, and we are like sisters. I hope that you can leave with Big Brother Dabai. This way, I will have no other worries." "No, since Miss has already decided, I will naturally follow. You said it yourself, we are like sisters. How can I not go?" There was no hesitation in Lil Wan's eyes. She also knew Mrs. Temper. Although she was usually quiet, she would not change her mind once she had decided on something. "I will also go with you." Du Xiaofu looked at the two women and said with a slight smile on his face, "Dabai, you have to think carefully. The Ji family has many strong cultivators. With your strength, it will be difficult for you to protect yourself. Your life may be in danger at any time. Although Miss has saved you, you should not participate in this matter, lest you lose your life." Lil Wan rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. She did not want to implicate this young man in front of her. Her eyes secretly fluctuated. She did not know why, but the young man in front of her was giving her a very special feeling. She could not even describe what that feeling was. It's okay. I will go and be your support. I will try not to implicate you. I promised Uncle Lon that I would send you away. Now that you want to go back, I naturally cannot just leave. Otherwise, I would be letting Uncle Lon down. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Ji Jian asked Du Xiaofu seriously, Big Brother Dubai, this is not child's play. You have to think carefully. Du Xiaofu said seriously, of course, I have already made up my mind. Last time, I was so seriously injured that I did not die. I must be very lucky. There is nothing to be afraid of. Ji Jian's lips curled into a smile. She sighed faintly and raised her head slightly. Her bright eyes looked at Du Xiaofu. She frowned slightly and said, Big Brother Dubai, when the time comes, you have to listen to everything I say. Do not be careless. Okay, no problem. Du Xiaofu nodded. Uncle Lon, I will think of a way to get justice for you. Ji Jian looked at the tombstone, then said to Lil Wan and Du Xiaofu, Lil Wan, Big Brother Dubai, let's go. Staying away from the Ji clan may not be the best choice. I promise you, I will definitely protect them. Du Xiaofu looked at the tombstone and said softly in his heart. Then, he left with Ji Jian and Lil Wan. Dubai, what is your cultivation level? Lil Wan's voice came from midair. I will try my best not to drag you down. Du Xiaofu smiled and replied. The three of them then disappeared in midair. Tianquan City. The scale of its size was famous throughout Shang Prefecture. The vast buildings were surrounded by mountains on three sides and flat plains. From afar, the vast silhouette of the city was like a huge dragon entrenched on the horizon. 4 days later, Du Xiaofu, Ji Jian, and Lil Wan mixed into the crowd and entered Tianquan City. Du Xiaofu was amazed by the prosperity of Tianquan City. The Ji clan competition is about to begin. I wonder who among Ji Zhengchun, Ji Ruahong, Ji Ruozi, and Ji Ruahuang will win. The most popular one is Ji Zhengchun. It is said that he has already reached the Nirvana realm of the Martial Emperor realm. He is also a male. The Ji clan will most likely not choose Nvlayu as the next leader. Ji Zhengchuan's odds are not high, but Ji Ruahong's odds are much higher. It is said that she also has a lot of chances. Her backing is not small. Don't forget that the Ji clan has a fifth Mississippi. I think her name is Ji Jian.